Chapter 32:18. The son of the devil had appeared. Kill him. The God-Slayer Alliance no longer had a way out. At this moment, all of them were charging toward martial god Qilin. Although they were like moths flying into a flame, they were not afraid of death. I, the demon young master, have been wise all my life. Who would have thought that I would make a mistake here? Young Master Yao let out a long sigh, as if he was singing a sad song of a hero. Rumble. However, a terrifying shockwave of thunder erupted in front of them. Not only did it seal off the huge divine palace, it also sent everyone flying backwards. Some of the weaker ones were directly ravaged to death. However, none of them were weaklings. At this moment, they all erupted with the last of their strength and actually joined forces to break through the lightning shockwave. God die! Young Master Yao! At the same time, a roar came from the void. The lightning dispersed, and a figure covered in metal wrapped around martial god Qilin like a spider. Wisps of mysterious power collided with each other. Touch the Golden Emperor. Looking at the metallic puppet-like figure, everyone was shocked. Most importantly, Prince of Gold seemed to be keeping martial god Qilin busy. As expected of the Shi ghost race, which specialized in the great tomb of gods and devils, they had the ability to move stealthily. Mojin Tianzi, hold on! Young Demon Lord was overjoyed, and demonic patterns began to appear on his face. He also chanted an unknown incantation, and his entire being transformed into a demon god. Everyone, attack with all your might. Ye Shui waved her hand and activated all kinds of barriers to attack martial god Qilin. Since martial god Qilin was being held back by Prince of Gold, it was their best chance. I'll do it, leg of god. Some martial progenitor realm experts even unleashed their strongest attacks. Rumble. The combined attack of the God-Slayer Alliance was extremely terrifying. The divine palace exploded, and a deep crater with a radius of several thousand miles appeared. The entire Yu province was shaken. Could it be that this group of people had really killed a deity? Cough, cough, cough. Chaotic airwaves swept through the area. After a short while, the sound of people vomiting blood could be heard. The members of the God-Slayer Alliance were all sitting on the ground, but their eyes were looking ahead nervously. At the same time, in the deep pit, a metal puppet with only half a body floated up. Dead, he's finally dead. The metal puppet let out an excited cry, completely ignoring the serious injuries it had suffered. He was the Emperor of Gold. As soon as his voice fell, everyone became excited. Plop. Emperor Touch Gold knelt down on one knee and shed golden tears as he looked at the sky with gratification. Master, I've avenged you. The people of their Tin Ghost clan were all puppets, and they were all made by one person. And that person was the master of their clan. Unfortunately, that person was killed by the heavenly court. Apart from him, everyone else was crying. They all knelt on the ground, tears flowing out of their eyes. After crying their hearts out, they began to laugh maniacally. The great enmity had been avenged. Today, God-slaying. He really destroyed the gods. What a terrifying God-Slayer alliance. In a place far away from Yu province, all the cultivators felt their hearts tremble. They knew that after tomorrow, this news would definitely shake the entire 9 province. Aren't you guys overthinking things? However, at this moment, a voice suddenly broke everyone's excitement. Lightning appeared in the sky again, and an old man slowly walked down. Previously, it was only a clone of mine. I thought you guys were great, but in the end, you only barely managed to kill a clone that possessed 30% of my strength. The old man said as he walked, his eyes gleaming with a profound light. He was martial god Qilin. The moment he appeared, everyone's expression changed drastically. Then they were filled with anger, unwillingness, and pain. They had done their best. However, had they only managed to kill a clone? They thought they had killed martial god Qilin, and they were so happy. You're a demon. Yi Shui let out a roar. A cockroach will always be a cockroach. How could you know the might of a god? Martial god Qilin sneered. He pointed with one hand, and his fingers turned into lightning that blasted the ground. The ground started to roll like waves, and endless lightning raged. The people were electrocuted, and they screamed in pain. This was the real martial god Qilin. The previous clone was nothing compared to him. The difference in strength was like heaven and earth. It seems like you've all reached your limit. Today is the perfect time to kill all of you. Martial god Qilin stepped forward with a merciless look in his eyes. He looked at the person closest to him and pointed with one hand. Ferocious lightning surrounded his finger. Its power was strong enough to kill any martial progenitor. That person was Li Hongwang. He let out a wry smile and yelled at a figure in the distance. Yenru, I love you. Hongwang. Ho Yenru's face was covered in tears as she looked at Li Hongwang. She wanted to save him, but what could she do? Li Hongwang. Everyone was yelling. Although the God Extermination Alliance did not know each other in the beginning, their lives were tied together due to the mission of exterminating the gods. As time passed, they had developed a good relationship with each other. However, Li Hongwang was about to die. Hey! The young beast lord let out a furious roar. It was an unwilling roar. They had all failed. They were all going to die here today. He's the one who betrayed us. Ma Jin Tianzi let out a furious roar. If it were not for the son of the demon, they would not have fought the heavenly court head-on. They would not have been wiped out in one fell swoop. He felt as if a knife had pierced his heart. Hee, you cockroaches have ambushed the heavenly court time and time again. Today all of you have shown yourselves. None of you will survive. None of you will escape. Seeing this, martial god Qilin laughed excitedly. At the same time, he pointed with his finger and was about to kill Li Hongwang. However, something unexpected happened at that moment. The heavenly palace suddenly trembled. Thunderbolts raged and wreaked havoc in everything. In the distance, another thunderbolt shot out and collided with martial god Qilin's finger. Rumble! More terrifyingly, the thunderbolt disintegrated martial god Qilin's attack and even forced him to retreat. Who is it? After retreating, martial god Qilin exclaimed in disbelief. The people of the God Extermination Alliance opened their eyes wide. A few figures slowly walked out from the billowing smoke. The person in the lead was dressed in a blue robe. He had a cold expression and was holding a child's hand. He looked like a deity who had just arrived. The son of the demon had appeared. The moment they saw Lin Ling, everyone was shocked. The young beast lord and Yi Shui were stunned. However, soon after, smiles appeared on their faces. Previously, it was his clone that came. Therefore I could not attack. Otherwise, he would not have fallen into the trap. This person is more cautious than I expected. Lin Ling glanced at the crowd and said indifferently. His words made everyone's hearts pound. They had not been betrayed. They had wronged the son of the demon. Moreover, they had almost ruined the God Extermination Alliance's plan. Chapter 32:19. God Slaying. Martial god Qilin's heart trembled violently. The son of demon seemed to know everything about him, even his style of doing things. Because he was indeed cautious before, the first time he arrived, it was only his clone. He looked at Lin Ling seriously and said, "It's you. You're the ultimate leader of the God-slaying alliance. Who are you?" At this moment, he was also a little panicked. Because he'd almost perished within the God Annihilation Grand Formation the last time, so he knew that this terrifying God Formation was capable of absorbing his lightning energy and returning it to him. And he was obviously tricked. If there was one person he feared the most in the 9 provinces, it was Lin Ling. "You will know who I am. Last time, you escaped, but this time, you won't be able to escape even if you grow wings. Martial god Qilin, this time, I'll let you see what the real 9 gods ancient Su formation is." Lin Ling smiled. His smile was extremely cold. He pushed Xiao Yu towards Indra and then began to form a complicated barrier with his hands. Yi Shui couldn't understand these barriers at all. She couldn't understand them at all. But she knew that the god-slaying array this time was different from the one in the spirit province. Chief God Awakening. Thunder God descends. Under Lin Ling's roar, the entire god-slaying palace flipped. All kinds of terrifying energy rushed towards Lin Ling like a storm and was absorbed by the barrier in Lin Ling's hands. In the next moment, Lin Ling heavily slapped the barrier on his forehead. There, a mysterious barrier seal immediately appeared. But the terrifying thing was, Thunder God descends. Lin Ling's strength reached the level of a god in the 9 provinces. His long hair turned into lightning, his clothes turned into lightning, his entire body turned into lightning. He stretched out his right hand and lightning rolled, causing Yu province to explode. Countless bolts of lightning shot up from the ground like flames. If there really was a god in the 9 provinces, then this was it. This was the real 9 gods' ancient Sioux formation. It absorbed martial god Qilin's lightning energy and the power of the barrier to form a real god. In an instant, 2 thunder gods appeared in the broken god-slaying palace. Endless lightning ripples spread out. If one looked closely, the 2 thunder gods' power was actually the same. Son of Demon. At this moment, young Master Yao and the others were undoubtedly excited. This was the God-Slaying Alliance's last God-Slaying Alliance. He's God-Slaying Array Formation and Qilin Martial God-Slaying God Qilin. Ye Shui's beautiful eyes scanned the surroundings. She realized that countless enchantments had appeared around the broken palace. These enchantments were strange and strange. They were like powerful shields that supported Lin Ling's entire body. Martial God Qilin, the mysterious power enveloped his entire body, making Lin Ling feel that he had to vent it out. He roared at the sky and stomped his feet heavily on the ground. Bang! With this kick, Yu Province was split open, and ferocious lightning shot out in all directions. Lin Ling pounced forward, and as he got closer and closer to martial god Qilin, his body began to expand, from 100 meters to 1,000 meters, like a giant. Impossible! Impossible! It's impossible for a half-saint realm junior to possess the power of a god, even with the help of external forces. Martial god Qilin kept shaking his head. Everything that was happening in front of him was beyond his understanding. But when the thunderstorm came, he had no choice but to fight. Furthermore, he also wanted to see if the creation of a god through the use of spirit power was as powerful as he imagined it to be. Crackle! Martial god Qilin also grew in size. His head reached the sky while his feet stomped on the ground. His divine energy roared as the 2 lightning energies collided fiercely. Boom! Boom! The moment they collided, Yuzhou felt as if the heavens and earth were falling apart. Countless houses collapsed, shocking everyone in Yuzhou. In the next moment, a giant staggered backward, crushing the ground of Yuzhou. He cried out in surprise. How can you be so strong? When they saw the giant, everyone's expression changed greatly. It was martial god Qilin. As for the members of the God Slayer Alliance, they were overjoyed and stood in place excitedly. Martial god Qilin, your end has come. Lin Ling, who had turned into a giant thunder giant, stared coldly at martial god Qilin with scorching eyes. It was as if he was going to settle the hatred of 2 lifetimes today. He had been waiting for this day for a long time. He was extremely unwilling to let martial god Qilin escape last time. This time, he had made a comeback and was fully prepared to kill martial god Qilin. Rumble! He punched out again, and thunder roared. If one looked closely, they would see a large number of spirit barriers floating behind him, and those spirit barriers were still burning. Obviously, the ancient formation of the 9 gods had a time limit. Its power came from the various spirit barriers and martial god Qilin's original lightning energy, and it could only last for 3 incense sticks worth of time. In short, it was duplicating martial god Qilin's power. Therefore, Lin Ling had to kill martial god Qilin within the time limit. Bang! Lin Ling took another step forward and approached martial god Qilin. Rumble! Martial god Qilin was suppressed by a powerful force. His face was filled with astonishment, and his eyes were filled with fear. As a matter of fact, when he saw Lin Ling, he had a feeling that this mysterious kid had the strength to kill him. Although this idea was somewhat dreamy and unrealistic, it was a fact that it truly existed. Perhaps the only person in the land of the 9 prefectures who had the strength to kill a martial god was the son of the demon. The members of the God Slayer Alliance became even more excited when they saw martial god Qilin being suppressed by the son of the demon. Judging from the situation, they knew martial god Qilin was going to die at this rate. Pop 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 pop. Rumble rumble rumble. The deafening noises were getting more and more terrifying. Martial god Qilin kept being knocked down, as if he had met his nemesis. Most terrifyingly, not only was the son of the demon powerful, he could even suppress all of martial god Qilin's moves. It was as if the son of the demon knew everything about martial god Qilin. Who the hell are you? Finally, martial god Qilin let out a roar that shook the heavens. I, martial god Qilin, have been practicing martial arts for my entire life. I have ascended from mortal to immortal, then to god. My bones are as tough as steel, and I can command the winds and clouds. You, a nameless kid, want to kill a martial god? Everything in the universe is predestined. You alone can't reverse the situation and kill a supreme god. Martial god Qilin kept retreating, vomiting blood. When the blood fell to the ground, it corroded the earth. It was divine blood. Lin Ling remained silent. He gathered all of his spirit power into his left hand. A dragon's roar was heard, and the dragon bow appeared. The dragon bow was covered in lightning energy, and it had turned into a lightning dragon. Lin Ling stared at martial god Qilin with sharp eyes. The time limit of 3 incense sticks was up. He was going to kill martial god Qilin with the final arrow. Chapter 32:20. A compass that devours everything. Tianyanlin, I'm back. An oppressive aura shrouded the sky above Yuzhou. The power of lightning and the power of the dragon god reached the chaotic universe from Yuzhou. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Thunderbolts crashed down, and the sky shattered like glass. As for Yu State, it directly cracked apart. If there was a god, this was the power of a god. You! Martial god Qilin's expression changed. He realized that the swords were the true inheritance dark swords and the son of the demon had mastered them. He guessed that the son of the demon had only managed to control the swords once with the help of the Great Barrier Formation. However, to be able to control the true inheritance dark swords? He suddenly recalled the son of the demon's words. I'm back. He instantly lost the ability to fight back. His heart was pounding. It was the first time in tens of thousands of years that his heart was pounding so violently. Due to his various guesses, he vaguely saw a familiar figure among the blue-robed figure in the distance. It was a figure that he would never forget even in his dreams. If it weren't for the 3 of them from the Tian family, the real god in the land of the 9 prefectures would have been that man. Thinking about it, that person had distributed his potential to the 3 of them, and all 3 of them had become gods. If all the potential was still on that person, how terrifying would that person's height be? You're back. I knew you would come back one day. Martial god Qilin had forgotten about the arrow that was supposed to kill him. Instead, he stared at Lin Ling in fear. The members of the God Extermination Alliance gasped when they saw this. Who was the son of the demon? Even a god was afraid of him. Tian Yanlin, rest in peace. However, Lin Ling stood coldly in the sky with his hands behind his back. He was like a god who ruled over the fate of martial god Qilin. Rumble! The 18 true inheritance dark swords shot toward martial god Qilin with the power of lightning and the boundless barrier. Pop! 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 The 18 true inheritance dark swords landed on 18 spots on martial god Qilin's body and pierced him into the ground. You're back! However, martial god Qilin roared as if he didn't feel pain. Perhaps to him, his return was more frightening than anything else. The ground continued to tremble as the destructive aura lingered in the air. Meanwhile, martial god Qilin's aura gradually weakened. His eyes seemed to have returned to the past. Perhaps, when a person was about to die, the regrets of his life would also surge into his mind. At that time, he, his son, and his daughter were living happily in a peaceful valley. But one day, Li Xiaoyao came. Moreover, it changed their lives, giving them a vast world, allowing them to indulge in it and enjoy the exhilarating feeling of dominating over tens of thousands of creatures. This also caused his daughter to change, and his son to change as well. They had become unreasonable. They only wanted to become stronger. Nothing in the world could move them, unless they were strong enough. Strength did indeed give them endless pleasure, but it also made them lose a lot of things. For example, kinship. Bang! At the same time, Lin Ling appeared beside martial god Qilin and looked down at him. Martial god Qilin stared at Lin Ling. I'm back. Lin Ling said calmly as he looked at martial god Qilin. I knew you'd come back one day, Xiaoyao. Martial god Qilin said weakly. Yes, no matter how I transmigrated in the reincarnation cycle, sooner or later, I, Li Xiaoyao, will come back. I came back not to prove anything, nor to dominate the world, but to tell you all that I lost in the past today. I will take it back with my own hands. Lin Ling said coldly. Then, he slammed his right hand on martial god Qilin's chest. A terrifying suction force gushed out and absorbed martial god Qilin's selfless thunder god flesh. You're the first. Next, Tianwen Valley, Tian Lioli will be the second. A moment later, a bloody ball the size of a stone mill appeared on Lin Ling's palm. The ball was surrounded by lightning, making it look extraordinary. Goodbye. Lin Ling turned around and left without looking at martial god Qilin. Martial god Qilin grew weaker. He could not even speak. All he could do was watch Li Tianlan's back as he left. He knew that even though he was a god, Li Xiaoyao had hundreds of ways to kill them. After all, Li Tianlan was a man who had the potential to surpass a god. Is he back? Is everything going back to normal? Will we return to that small valley? Martial god Qilin murmured and slowly closed his eyes. His soul and his thoughts seemed to have returned to the peaceful valley thousands of years ago, the place where his dream began. Seeing martial god Qilin fall, all the members of the God Slayer Alliance were stunned. Then they started to feel excited. Then with a plop, they knelt down one after another. They looked at the sky as if they were looking at their friends and family who had died at the hands of the heavenly court. Plop! They kowtowed to the sky. Their life's mission to slay the gods had finally come to an end. Leave now. However, before they could express their gratitude, Lin Ling had already looked at the sky. That was because he sensed the aura of Tianwen Valley approaching from afar. Another martial god is here. Follow the plan and leave immediately. Lin Ling roared and shot toward Sakura. He took Xiao Yu and rushed toward the escape route that they had arranged beforehand. The others also reacted. They could not care less about the excitement in their hearts and started to escape. They had already sensed that martial god Qilin's death would cause chaos in Zhou. Rumble. Almost at the same time, a huge compass appeared in the chaotic universe. The compass was so big that it occupied the entire sky of Yuzhou. It was terrifying. The compass was filled with nebulas. It rotated slowly as if it was turning on the wheel of fate. On the ground, some of the God Slayer Alliance members were too slow to escape. They were sucked into the compass and disappeared. Save me! They cried out in pain, but it was useless. The god's compass was even more terrifying than martial god Qilin. After everyone was sucked into the compass, they turned into nothingness. At the same time, a majestic voice came from the sky. Young master monster, Ye Shui, Majin Tianzi, son of demon. The most terrifying thing was that after devouring those people, the newcomer knew everything about the God Slayer Alliance, including information about Lin Ling and the others. Run! Run! At this moment, Lin Ling had already reached the entrance of the secret passage. He looked back and immediately shouted anxiously. Young Master Monster and the others appeared in another secret passage. Their expressions changed drastically. Rumble! Behind them, the suction force of the compass arrived and sucked the ground of Yuzhou into the sky. Countless martial artists were also sucked into it. Chapter 32:21. Escape. As soon as they entered the secret passage, they realized that everything behind them started to disintegrate and distort. Even the void was being sucked into the compass. This kind of power was truly terrifying. Even Yu State would be sucked into it. Senior, please be merciful. Senior. In Yu State, an anxious voice suddenly rang out. It was Emperor Yu who had rushed back from Yen State. However, his pleading voice was of no use. The compass in the sky was cold and merciless. It was as if it was going to turn everyone into nothingness. Emperor Yu could not control himself and was sucked into the compass. His expression changed drastically and he quickly activated his ancient power. However, what made his scalp go numb was that the compass was so terrifying that it was not even afraid of the ancient power. All the power was sucked into the compass and turned into nothingness. Emperor Yu had died. Moreover, his death was extremely tragic because he did not know what had happened. The power of the compass passed through the secret passage and continued to pursue Lin Ling and the others. As a result, the people of the God Extermination Alliance were killed one after another. Realizing this, young Beast Lord and the others felt helpless because they could not fight against it. Moreover, they had gotten their revenge today. Those who died were willing to die. Second brother, what is this thing? It's simply heaven-defying. In the void passageway, Sakura said with trepidation. At this moment, he finally witnessed the power of a god. Heaven-seeking compass. Lin Ling said with a solemn face. He did not expect Tianwen Valley to have reached such a level of strength. They were obviously much stronger than martial god Qilin. Hurry up! After passing through the passage, we will be able to reach another place. Then, Lin Ling exhorted again. He held Xiao Yu's hand and quickly rushed forward. Rumble! The void behind them was constantly shattering. Its power was as strong as the realm-devouring beast. At this moment, Lin Ling did not know how young Beast Lord and the others were doing. The only thing he could do was to take care of himself. However, he had a feeling that Tianwen Valley would target him because they knew that martial god Qilin was killed by him. Tianwen Valley must be very curious about him. Boom! In the end, Lin Ling and the others rushed out of the spirit formation passage. When they reappeared, they were already in the void of the universe. Moreover, they didn't know where this place belonged to. I finally escaped. Sakura heaved a sigh of relief and looked into the distance. Only then did he realize that there were still a few people from the God Extermination Alliance. When they saw Lin Ling, they all smiled. However, Lin Ling suddenly frowned. Not yet. Once those words left his mouth, a terrifying suction force was born from the void that they had charged out from. It was actually trying to pull them back to the compass through the spirit formation channel. Fuck. Traversing the void to chase after me? That's too awesome. Seeing this, Sakura's face changed greatly. Things are getting troublesome. Lin Ling sensed that the suction force from the compasses were like countless tentacles that wrapped around his body, pulling him toward the spirit formation passage. Against this kind of divine power, Lin Ling's methods were all useless. If he was pulled back to the compass, the result could be imagined. Second brother, what should we do? Sakura was also being pulled by the suction force. He let out an anxious voice. The others also looked at Lin Ling and shouted, "Son of demon, think of something." Hearing this, Lin Ling smiled bitterly. In terms of cultivation realm, he was the lowest among those present. How could he have any ideas? Previously, he was able to kill a god because of the power of the great divine array. Moreover, that array was set up for a long time. That was why it had such power. And now, Lin Ling could be said to be powerless to resist. This also let him know that in the chaos of the universe, the great divine array and other things were just external objects. The true power was still one's own body. It seems that we can't escape this calamity. In the end, Lin Ling sighed and said. Hearing this, everyone's faces dimmed. However, they soon smiled proudly. Enough, enough. Although we're going to die in the compass, at least we've dragged a god down with us. That's enough. That's right. Ha ha ha, we've got our revenge. Since they couldn't escape, they faced it with ease. Second brother, we've profited. Even Di Shirtion wanted to see it thoroughly. Perhaps in the face of the power of a god. He also knew that any resistance was useless. However, how could Lin Ling be willing? There were still two of his enemies who hadn't died yet. He reincarnated. Was he going to die in the hands of his enemies? He was not willing at all. Unfortunately, it was useless. Instead, they were getting closer and closer to the passage. The terrifying thing was that the passage had already collapsed. However, because of the suction force of the compass, the passage didn't completely disappear. Brother, are we going to die? Xiao Yu was also being pulled by the suction force. Her little face was full of worry. Xiao Yu, I'm sorry. I promised your grandfather to protect you, but in the end, because of brother, I implicated you. Looking at the cute Xiao Yu, Lin Ling's eyes were full of guilt. Brother, we won't die. Xiao Yu gritted her teeth and seemed to have made a decision. She silently chanted something and on her bright forehead, the mark of wind and rain appeared. Her little mouth moved slightly and let out a weak voice. Call the wind. It could be seen that she seemed to be urging some kind of power. Moreover, this kind of power was extremely difficult for Xiao Yu. Whoosh! Under her voice, there was a sudden change. In the chaos of the universe, the divine wind whistled, causing the myriad of worlds to shake. This unforeseen event caused Lin Ling and the others' faces to change greatly. Summon the rain. Xiao Yu spoke again. Rumble. There was rain, as if it came from the era of the gods, suppressing the universe. Under the torrential rain, the suction force of the compasses was actually destroyed, allowing Lin Ling and the others to finally break free. Damn, second brother, where did this kid come from? Seeing that terrifying scene, Di Shirtion was scared silly. Lin Ling smiled bitterly. He didn't expect Xiao Yu to have such power because he clearly sensed that the power was the same as martial god Qilin and Tianwen Valley. It seemed to be a kind of divine power. Brother, I want to sleep. However, the divine wind and rain came quickly and disappeared quickly. After a while, Xiaoyu let out a weak voice. Xiaoyu, thank you. Lin Ling hurriedly carried Xiaoyu on his back and left anxiously with the little white rabbit, Xiaolu, and the others. The others also felt as if they had just survived a disaster and quickly followed Lin Ling. Looking at the crystal channel that was destroyed by the divine rain, there was a suction force that was like the tentacles of an octopus. It could be said that it had revived. If they were pulled by the suction force again, the consequences would be unimaginable. Moreover, Lin Ling couldn't guarantee that Tianwen Valley would come. If he came with the people on his side, there was no doubt that they would die. Lin Ling. Over here. However, at this moment, a familiar voice came from the void in front of them. A large number of people carrying tombstones appeared, led by Meng Lu. Young Master. Chapter 32-22. Escape back to Qingzhou. When they saw Lin Ling, they were all overjoyed. However, when they saw the mysterious power behind them, they knew they had to leave immediately. What happened? Meng Lu asked first. There's no time to explain. Let's leave this place first. I'll be in charge of opening the exit. Lin Ling stared at the spirit formation passageway and discovered that the suction force had reignited. He immediately activated the space-time divine steel and ordered Meng Lu and the others to attack the broken spirit formation passageway. Rumble. Everyone knew the urgency of the matter. They hurriedly followed Lin Ling's instructions and used their martial arts to attack the spirit formation passageway. With everyone's attacks, the spirit formation passageway continued to shatter, causing the tentacle-like suction force to struggle. All right. After a short while, Lin Ling looked at the crowd. A huge stone stele sat before him. The stone stele opened an ancient door that seemed to lead to another world. That was another effect of the space-time divine stele. As long as a corresponding spirit formation was set up at a certain location, one could reach that location through the space-time divine stele. Of course, activating the space-time divine stele required some time. That was why Lin Ling ordered Meng Lu and the others to attack the spirit formation passageway. After that, the crowd entered the space-time divine stele one after another. Rumble. The door of the space-time divine stele quietly closed. At the same time, the space-time divine stele became illusory and disappeared without a trace. After the crowd left, the terrifying suction force surged out from the broken spirit formation passageway again. However, it did not discover Lin Ling and the others and could only retreat. Damn it! In the sky above Yuzhou, the huge compass let out a furious voice. He had actually allowed the demon sun and the others to escape. I don't care who you are. Even if I have to search the entire 9 provinces, I'll find all of you. The compass let out a majestic voice. It was the voice of the Tianwen Valley. Although he was the son of martial god Qilin, their father and son relationship had been strained all these years. It was all because of their interests. But no matter what, they were still father and son, so this enmity was absolutely irreconcilable. Almost at the same time, in the distant horizon, a woman was frowning. She was extremely beautiful and agile, but if one looked into her eyes, they would discover that there was a valiant and domineering aura in her eyes. And she was Luli Empress. Father is dead. Luli Empress mumbled to herself. She reached out her hand as if to touch the chaos around her. Then, she suddenly laughed bitterly. I don't know why, but I don't feel the slightest bit of sadness. She shook her head helplessly. To her, martial god Qilin's death was no different from someone being killed in the shadows. It was a disgrace to her. As for the father-daughter relationship, she really couldn't sense it. God-Slayer Alliance? Who are these people? Young Master Yao, Ye Shui, son of the devil, Prince of Gold, Yi Lin Yun. She kept mumbling to herself, and her gaze finally landed on the son of devil. He has the god-slaying array? What a mysterious guy, but I will find you. The news of martial god Qilin's death spread like a snowball throughout the land of the 9 prefectures. Everyone was shocked. The 10 great martial gods of the land of the 9 prefectures were invincible in everyone's hearts. But now, even a god had fallen. Without a doubt, the God-Slayer Alliance's name had spread throughout the land of the 9 prefectures. Everyone was curious about who this group of hot-blooded young men were. How terrifying. Even a god has fallen. I wonder if the God-Slayer Alliance still exists and if they are recruiting. Even I want to join them. It's not just the God-Slayer Alliance, it's the Miracle Alliance. If I can find them, I will join them. God Slayer Alliance. God Slayer Alliance. I heard that even Emperor Yu of the Yu Prefecture has fallen. This is a big event in the land of the 9 prefectures. In every corner of the land of the 9 prefectures, countless cultivators were talking excitedly. At this moment, in the land of the 9 prefectures, the void cracked open, and then a large number of figures walked out. Who is it? These people appeared in a green mountain. When they walked out, someone immediately shouted angrily, "It's me!" Among the people who walked out, one of them said with a smile. The people who were on guard were stunned, and then they all laughed in surprise. Because this was the place where the 3rd princess lived, everyone was extremely cautious. However, the person who had returned was Lin Ling. Lord Lin Ling, I will inform the 3rd princess. Someone immediately ran out. Lin Ling and the others finally heaved a sigh of relief. We've returned to the land of the 9 prefectures. From the vicinity of the land of the 9 prefectures, we finally arrived here. This time, that god shouldn't be able to catch up with us. Sakura sat on the ground with a thump. When he thought of what had happened, he felt as if he had just survived a disaster. The others felt the same way. Especially Meng Lu and the others, they still did not know what had happened. Lin Ling, the person who made you run away in a panic should not be weak. Could it be a martial ancestor? Meng Lu finally asked curiously. He knew Lin Ling's strength. Even a first heaven sage was no match for this guy. Therefore, in terms of hunting, it must be a martial ancestor. Martial ancestor? Is he qualified to make us run away in a panic? Before Lin Ling could speak, Sakura, who was sitting on the ground, immediately uttered a disdainful sound. Sakura, what do you mean by that? Meng Lu's expression changed slightly. Let me tell you, we're being hunted by a god. Sakura glanced at Meng Lu with pride in his eyes. God? Are you kidding me? Before Meng Lu could speak, the people behind him who were carrying the tombstones exclaimed. Furthermore, they stared at Lin Ling and the others in a strange manner, assuming that Lin Ling and the others were bragging. How impressive is a god? Little brother Meng Lu, if I tell you another piece of news, I'm afraid your jaw will drop. Sakura chuckled and said once again. His words caused the faces of the people behind Meng Lu to turn unpleasant. This guy is too full of himself. He dares to call their young master his little brother. One had to know that they were from the 9 continents' 10 evils. However, Meng Lu was not bothered. He had trained with Sakura for many years. Thus they had established a strong relationship. Most importantly, although he had a formidable background, he knew that Lin Ling and the others were not ordinary people either. He said with a smile, Brother Tian, why don't you tell me? Let me see if my jaw will drop. His words left the people of the Tomb Watchers dumbfounded. Since you're so obedient, I'll tell you. We've eliminated a god. Sakura said in a mysterious manner. Ha ha. Hearing this, the people of the Tomb Watchers could not help but burst out laughing. This guy is too good at bragging. Meanwhile, Meng Lu's eyes shuddered. Based on his understanding of Sakura, he knew that Sakura would not brag about such matters. Lin Ling, is that true? However, he still wanted to get Lin Ling's affirmation. At this moment, Lin Ling was looking at Xiaoyu with a worried expression. However, when he saw that Xiaoyu was only sleeping, he finally let out a sigh of relief. He looked at Meng Lu. They were all after images. Chapter 32-23. Discuss. It's true. Lin Ling nodded. Fuck. Oh my god. At the same time, Dreamflow and Do Afterimage's jaws dropped to the ground. However, the Gravekeepers didn't believe it. God slaying? If he wasn't even at the Sage Realm, it was still possible for him to kill a cockroach. Master, are you implying that martial god Qilin was killed because of you? At this moment, a cry of surprise rang out. The 3rd princess walked over quickly with Grandma Wendao. What did you say? Martial god Qilin was killed? The Gravekeeper's expression changed. That's right. The news has already spread throughout the 9 provinces. I heard that a mysterious God-Slayer alliance joined forces to destroy the gods, creating a miracle and shocking the 9 provinces. The 3rd princess said with a solemn face. Pa pa pa. At this moment, the jaws of the Gravekeeper tribe dropped to the ground. When they saw young Master Meng Lu's expression, they gradually began to believe him. But how could a half-saint slay a god? Just the thought of it was terrifying. Lin Ling and Sakra's complexion changed. They didn't expect the news to spread so quickly. Master, this is no small matter. Don't leave Qing province during this period of time because there will definitely be a lot of people looking for you. The third princess looked at Lin Ling and said. Lin Ling nodded. He also had the same idea. However, he also warned, don't tell anyone about this. Otherwise, you will be consigned to eternal damnation. Of course we know. The third princess nodded, but then she looked at the people behind Meng Lu. Meng Lu said coldly, if news of this gets out, you will all become sinners of the Gravekeeper clan. Do you understand? I know. The Gravekeepers nodded solemnly. Next, Lin Ling hid in Jianghu and temporarily avoided the limelight. Furthermore, he was also worried about the young demon master and the others. However, when he thought about the young demon master and the others' backgrounds, Lin Ling couldn't be bothered to worry about them. None of the members of the God Slayer Alliance were pushovers. As long as they could escape, they would be like birds flying in the sky. It would undoubtedly be very difficult to catch them. And in the days of seclusion, Lin Ling's friends from Jianghu also came one after another. Falling Flowers, Flowing Water Sword, Tang Yue, Huang Fui Dao, and so on. However, they did not know that Lin Ling was one of the gods of destruction. Therefore, after a lively conversation, they also talked about the gods of destruction. Moreover, the more he spoke, the more excited he became. It was as if he really wanted to join the God Slayer Alliance. Seeing this, Lin Ling, Sakra, and the others all smiled bitterly. Destroying a god might seem awe-inspiring, but it was like walking on a tightrope over a cliff. They had almost been destroyed by a god. However, in order not to implicate them, Lin Ling did not intend to tell them such a big matter. During this process, Xiaoyu had also woken up. She was biting her little hand. When she saw Lin Ling, she immediately became happy and once again clung onto Lin Ling. Towards this little girl, Lin Ling was also very grateful. Xiaoyu had saved his life twice. Little you, let's go. I'll take you to see Grandpa. After kissing Xiaoyu, Lin Ling activated the space-time divine steel and entered the flame world fragment. Moreover, he used the space-time divine steel to secretly return to spirit state and bring Yu and the others back. Of course, when he met Xingxiu Yun and the others, he also told them the whole story. In fact, Xingxiu Yun and the others knew where Lin Ling went. Therefore, when the news of martial god Qilin's death spread, they also knew that it was Lin Ling's doing. Without any suspense, their jaws dropped to the ground. They did not expect Lin Ling to succeed. Grandfather. Mother. Arriving at the flame world fragment, Lin Ling was the first to call out. When the evil flame sect saw Lin Ling, everyone knelt down and shouted in unison, Sect Master. Lin Ling waved slightly at them. His gaze was already fixed on a white-haired elder. That elder was Ancestor Extreme Flame. At this moment, his face was also filled with excitement. Grandfather. Yu, Shen Yuanguer and the others also shouted and pounced towards Lin Ling's mother, Amonienchen. The whole family was in a joyous and harmonious mood. Sakra, Meng Lu and the others were the same. They were undoubtedly very happy to see Ancestor Extreme Flame and the others again. In the following time, Lin Ling also stayed in the Flame World fragment and chatted with his family. It was extremely peaceful. During this time, Xiaoyu also became familiar with Ancestor Extreme Flame and the others. She finally stopped pestering Lin Ling. Lin Ling also used his free time to teach Lin Yi martial arts. At the same time, he taught many martial arts to the evil flame sect, greatly increasing the strength of this sect. Now, in the Flame World fragment, Lin Ling could be called the master of a world. Blood of God. Night fell. Lin Ling cultivated for a while. With a wave of his hand, martial god Qilin's blood of God appeared. If I devour this blood of God, my strength will definitely increase greatly. However, it is better to use this blood of God to refine my body. Lin Ling already had a plan. However, he did not dare to refine it and sealed it, because he was afraid that martial god Wen Tian would use the blood of God to find his whereabouts. Currently, Lin Ling was poor. All his cultivation resources were used to set up formations. Therefore, his cultivation realm could not increase in a short period of time. Master, not good. On this day, the third princess transmitted her voice to Lin Ling. Her voice was filled with anxiety. A lot of mysterious people have appeared in Qing province today. I think they are here for you. Hearing the transmission, Lin Ling's expression changed. They found him so quickly? At the same time, a voice sounded out. Son of the demon, it's best if you leave your hometown immediately. With the martial god's strength, it won't be difficult for him to find your hometown. Moreover, I'm guessing that there are many outsiders in the spirit province right now. The transmission came from Yi Shui, as expected of the top 10 martial gods. Hearing this, Lin Ling's expression became more serious. You don't have to worry about the martial gods attacking your hometown, because the 10 great martial gods of the 9 prefectures still care about their reputation. Moreover, everyone knows that the god-slaying alliance is challenging the heavenly court. If martial god Wentian can't catch us and instead attacks our hometown, others will feel ashamed of him. Yes. Therefore, martial god Wentian's target is only the god-slaying alliance. Yes. Therefore, you must leave immediately. Let me give you a reminder. Go to the Yan province. There are other martial gods there. Martial god Wentian cannot cover the sky with one hand. Yes. Thank you for the news. I will prepare to leave in a few days. Yes. Lin Ling's eyes flashed. He told the news to his family and friends. Everyone gathered at the fragment of the flame world to discuss. Go to the Yan province? Yes. After Do Kening heard the news, he frowned slightly. The Yan province is not a place where ordinary people can go. Those who go must have a certain status. How about this? Let young master enter the Yan province in the name of the Flying Dragon organization. However, only young master can enter. Yes. Alone? Yes. Lin Ling shook his head decisively. Sakura had to come with him. Therefore, the Flying Dragon organization's name was useless. How about we inform the Fuxing Manor? How about using their name? Yes. Chapter 32-24. Stay away from the limelight. That's not good either. Although Sunset Shine is from Fuxing Manor, it doesn't mean that they will side with us. If they betray us at the critical moment, we will be in trouble. Lin Ling shook his head again. For a moment, everyone became even more worried. The power of the martial god was too great. With their current strength, they were not strong enough to fight against him. Why don't we go to my place? Meng Lu suddenly said, but Lin Ling still shook his head. Although the Tomb Guardian tribe is wandering around the universe, if martial god Wentian finds out where we are, it will bring trouble to the Tomb Guardian tribe. Lin Ling knew that the 9 prefectures' 10 evils were ranked in the 3rd tier, while the 9 prefectures' 10 great martial gods were ranked in the 4th tier. They were obviously stronger. Perhaps the Tomb Guardian tribe was not afraid of martial god Wentian, but if they fought against him, the Tomb Guardian tribe would suffer great losses. Therefore, Lin Ling could not bring himself to drag his friends down. We can't do this, we can't do that. Do we have to wait for death here? Sakura walked back and forth with his hands behind his back. Where are young Monster Lord and the others hiding? Why aren't they afraid of being hunted down? Also, they are too disloyal. They are hiding themselves, but we have to bear the martial god's pursuit. Big brother, don't blame them. They might not be better than us. I think they are hiding in Yen State or Miao State. Lin Ling shook his head and smiled. Good disciple, do you want to go to Yen State? Just as everyone was at their wits' end, a voice transmission was heard. It was Xianxia's voice. Yes, master. Do you have a way? Lin Ling's eyes lit up. Sigh, if that's the case, why don't we go to Yen State's Grand Simplicity Nebula sect? I am a disciple of this sect, and my master is also the sect leader. However, he has always refused to acknowledge me. I hope this time, he will give us a way out. A sigh came from the other side of the voice transmission. Master, will this make things difficult for you? Lin Ling frowned. No, it's just that I am too embarrassed to meet him. Because he values me very much, but I have disappointed him. How about this? You wait for a while. After a long time, a surprised voice was heard. My dear disciple, he has agreed. However, it doesn't mean that you can go to the Great Change Nebula sect unless you pass the assessment. This is the only thing I can do. Thank you, master. Lin Ling was overjoyed. They had found a place to hide. It was the Yen State's Grand Simplicity Nebula sect. Old Do, Are you familiar with the Grand Change Nebula sect? Lin Ling asked Do after image. In the Yen state, there are many powerful warriors left behind from the deity era. The Grand Change Nebula sect is one of them. Although it is not the strongest sect in the Yen state, it is quite famous. In the 9 regions it is like a god. As a 13 kills expert, Do Kening had naturally roamed the 9 prefectures. That's good. How about you come with us? With my status, this is not difficult. After getting Do Kenying's consent, Lin Ling was overjoyed. Then, he sighed with emotion. In the past, when Li Xiaoyao had roamed the 9 regions, there were no such rules. Of course, there may have been, but Li Xiaoyao was too strong in the past. Entering the Yen state was like entering his backyard, so he did not know about these rules. Lin Ling, I'll go with you. Brother, I'll go too. Meng Lu and Xiao Yu spoke almost at the same time. Meng Lu, you're going too? Lin Ling was a little surprised. Of course. Meng Lu nodded as if it was a matter of course. You know, when you killed the deity in the spirit state, I missed it. I regretted it so much. Later, when I returned to the tribe, I learned that you went to the ancient forbidden forest and even killed the deity. I missed such a big event again, so I can't miss what is going to happen next. Anyway, there will never be a small matter by your side, and it will never be boring. Hearing this, Lin Ling was speechless. Sakura laughed out loud and agreed with Meng Lu going with them. Since that's the case, there's no time to lose. Let's go to the spirit state immediately and ask Master for help. Lin Ling activated the time and space divine steel, said goodbye to his family, and left immediately. Yu Yu and the others also returned to the spirit state. Because if they disappeared, the martial god and other experts would come to the fragment of the flame world, and that would be troublesome. Moreover, although martial god Wen Tian said that he would not attack the hometown of the God Slayer Alliance, there was nothing wrong with being cautious. After a while, Lin Ling and the others returned to the spirit state. My good disciple, I've already arranged everything. Take these jade tokens and you can enter the Yen state. Xing Shiyun immediately said after seeing Lin Ling. Thank you, Master. Lin Ling nodded gratefully. Although Xing Shiyun had never taught him martial arts, he had always protected him like a master. Because of this, Lin Ling was willing to call him Master. Haha, if Master doesn't help me, who will help you? Hurry up and go. Come back after you've avoided this storm. Hearing Lin Ling's heartfelt words, Xing Shiyun couldn't help but smile. Master Tantric Buddhism and the others also smiled at Lin Ling with pride in their eyes. They didn't find Lin Ling and the others' escape shameful. After all, who in the 9 states could do that? Then I'll take my leave. Lin Ling bowed deeply to Xing Shiyun and led Di Shirtian and the others on their journey. Using the time and space divine steel to appear in another void, Lin Ling and the others wore large cloaks to hide their appearances and headed towards the Yen state. At this moment, in the sky above Qing state and spirit state, a large number of experts were monitoring everything, but they didn't find anything strange. Martial God, I reckon that the son of the demon isn't in Qing state and spirit state. If he really wants to go in and out, he won't be able to escape our eyes. Where did he go? He should be hiding in the myriad worlds. Find him, we must find him. As Lin Ling was using the time and space divine steel, Wentian martial god's men couldn't detect Lin Ling's whereabouts at all. As for Lin Ling and the others, they didn't feel much pressure and were chatting and laughing along the way. Lin Ling carried Xiao Yu on his back and sang as he strode forward. Second brother, Xiao Yu is so powerful. She broke the god's attack last time. Di Shirtian said as he drank his wine and teased Xiao Yu. Annoying. However, Xiao Yu didn't give him any face at all, causing Di Shirtian to shake his head gloomily. Don't underestimate her. Her grandfather is very powerful. If he finds out that you bullied Xiao Yu, he'll skin you alive. Lin Ling said with a smile. I don't need you to remind me. I know that. Di Shirtian became even more gloomy. He looked ahead and realized that in the void, there were quite a number of people heading towards the Yen state. What are you looking at? Di Shirtian's gloomy gaze was instantly noticed by one of the young men, and he immediately shouted angrily. The voice stunned Di Shirtian. How could this person be so arrogant? Because he realized that the latter seemed to be at the same level as him. Ignore him. He's just a mad dog. If he bites you, are you going to bite him back? Chapter 32-25. Martial Uncle He. Are you afraid? Trash, trash. Do you know who he is? The silence of Lin Ling and the others caused the youth to shake his head in disdain. The people around him began to laugh. What a bunch of clowns. These youths were all half-sages. With their strength, they didn't even place Meng Lu in their eyes. Of course, he didn't care about their provocation. Brother Demon is still the best. Seeing Lin Ling and the others lower their heads, those fellows laughed even more wildly. Of course, Brother Demon is the son of Demon, the leader of the God-slaying alliance, the one who slayed God. In the current 9 provinces, who isn't afraid of him? One of them lightly said, his voice extremely loud. There were other martial artists hurrying through the void. After hearing this, their complexions changed and awe appeared in their eyes. Son of Demon. It was him again. The divine dreamland, the eternal forbidden forest, and finally the God-slaying alliance. The son of Demon was extremely famous in the 9 provinces. Even Lin Ling and the others' complexions changed. You are the son of Demon. Sakura said in disbelief. You only know now? You have a pair of dog eyes. Let me tell you, he is the son of Demon whose name shakes the 9 provinces. How about it? Are you afraid? Have your dog eyes gone blind? Hearing Sakura's words, those people puffed out their chests. As for the youth called Son of Demon, he looked up at the sky at a 75-degree angle. Lin Ling and the others. It's an honor to meet you. Finally, Sakura bowed to them. Not only did they not blame them, but they were also very happy. This was because a fake Son of Demon had appeared. This would make them even safer. Do you want an autograph? Hee, even if you want it, the Son of Demon won't give it to you. Let me tell you, the Son of Demon is going to the Flame State, and he is going to the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect. The Grand Simplicity martial ancestor has personally said that he wants to take the Son of Demon as his disciple. The youth proudly said. After speaking, he puffed out his chest and strode forward. As soon as these words came out, Lin Ling and the others felt as if they had been struck by lightning. All of them stood there stupidly. Wait, you are going to the Yen State, and then to the Grand Change Nebula sect. Lin Ling couldn't help but open his mouth. Of course, it's time to recruit disciples over there. The son of the devil and the others didn't even look at Lin Ling and the others as they continued to proudly walk forward. There's no need to be jealous. Not everyone can enter the Yen province. Other than people like the son of the devil, you ordinary people can only look up. However, before they could finish their words, Lin Ling and the others had already pounced over, looking ferocious. Rumble. One by one, they burst out with powerful martial arts and beat up the fake devil's son and the others. I'll make you the son of devil, I'll make you the son of devil, I'll make you the son of devil, I'll make your whole family change your name. If you don't change your name, I'll beat you to death. Why did you have to go to the Yen State of all places? Do you want to get us killed? Scram, go to the myriad worlds. Go back to your hometown. You can go anywhere, but not the Yen State. Are you going to scram or not? If you don't, I'll beat you until your father doesn't recognize you. Lin Ling and the others seemed to have gone berserk. Stop fighting, spare my life. With the strength of those people, they couldn't block Lin Ling and the others' attacks at all. All of them were beaten black and blue. This appearance undoubtedly scared the passers-by. Son of the devil? That's too fucking unbearable, like a piece of trash. Sirs, why did you hit us? The young man called the son of the devil was beaten the most fiercely. Half of his teeth had been knocked out. What made him most depressed was that he still didn't know why the other party had beaten him. After all, this group of people had been extremely respectful to them and even worshipped them. In the blink of an eye, they were like wolves baring their teeth. How could he know that if he, the fake son of the devil, went to the Yen State and the Grand Change Nebula sect, wouldn't that lead when Tian martial God there? Lin Ling and the others had gone to the Yen State to avoid the limelight, and when Tian martial God had also been lured there. How could they avoid the limelight? Therefore, this fake son of the devil had to be beaten up. Scram, don't go to the Yen State. Lin Ling shouted angrily. Big brother, hero, grandpa, don't hit us. Whatever you say is true. Then let's go. Where are we going? Those people were even more confused after being beaten up. Anyway, you're not allowed to go to the Yen State. You can go anywhere else. Of course, you can go to the myriad realms, because there should be news of the son of the devil in the myriad realms. Go there, eat good food and drink, and there are beauties everywhere. Lin Ling's face was all smiles. That's right, with my reputation as the son of the devil, ordinary people will definitely worship me. We should go to the myriad realms. That's right, eat good food and drink, and there are beauties everywhere. Thank you for your reminder. Those young men's eyes lit up. Not only did they not resent Lin Ling and the others, but they were also grateful. Understood then scram. Lin Ling scolded with a smile. Hero, farewell. If you encounter any trouble in the future, just say that you think I'm the son of the devil. This will definitely let you escape. The group of people ran away in high spirits. Lin Ling and the others shook their heads helplessly. They knew in their hearts that if Martial Godwin Tion came looking for them, these people would probably be scapegoats. Let's go. After half a month, an ancient continent finally appeared in front of them. This continent was so vast that Lin Ling and the others had never seen it before. On the ground, strands of invisible air waves that seemed to be the power of gods floated into the sky from time to time. When they landed on the ground, Lin Ling and the others felt that the gravity of the earth was extremely strong. They were afraid that even if they used all their strength here, they would not be able to shake the earth. And this was the Yen state. An existence that surpassed the Yu state. It was also the place with the most gods and martial gods. Moreover, countless secrets from the era of gods were hidden here. In this place, even if a very ordinary martial artist suddenly wanted to jump off a cliff one day, he might be able to find a treasure at the bottom of the cliff, and from then on, reach the heavens in one step. Because this was also a continent full of miracles. Are you Xianxia's disciple? According to the Jade Token, Lin Ling's group spent another 10 days before they finally arrived at an ancient green mountain range. They had just landed when a voice was transmitted from the front. A middle-aged man walked over with a smile. His pace was not fast, but he appeared in front of Lin Ling's group in the blink of an eye. This person's strength was at the 5th level of the Saint Realm. He was also sizing up Lin Ling and the others. Are you Martial Uncle He? Lin Ling instantly smiled and asked. Xianxia had reminded him that he would send his junior brother to pick him up. It should be this person in front of him. Yes, you should be senior brother Yun's disciples. Not bad, not bad, not bad seedlings, follow me. Martial Uncle He smiled with satisfaction and led Lin Ling and the others forward. Chapter 32-26. Silver Moon Mountain. However, this is the Yen state. There are many people who are stronger than your master. Don't be too arrogant. Even I'm only a small elder in the sect. In the next month, the Great Simplicity Nebula sect will be recruiting disciples. You must work hard to pass the 2 major tests. Only then can you become a member of the Great Simplicity Nebula sect. If you fail, even I can't help you. You can only leave the Yen province. Martial Uncle He kept reminding him. Thank you for your reminder. We'll work hard. Lin Ling and Dream Flow looked at each other and nodded. Moving forward, 8 green mountains appeared in front of him. They were connected head to tail, as if a huge green dragon was sitting on the ground. In the sky above the green mountains, a bright moonlight hung there, sprinkling a cold light, making people feel very comfortable all over. We've reached Silver Moon Mountain. Martial Uncle He smiled and led Lin Ling and the others forward. He Xingshan? Not long after, an old man led a few young men over from the mountain range ahead. These are? He asked with a smile before the old man even got close. He's senior brother Xing's disciple. Martial Uncle He immediately explained. Senior brother Xing? Which senior brother? So it's Xianxia. I haven't seen him since he left the Yen province. If you didn't mention it, I wouldn't have remembered. Sigh. Master has mentioned Senior Xing before. I didn't think that he would abandon himself and go to the Spirit Province. I'm afraid that Master has forgotten about this disciple. The old man frowned when he heard Master's words, but he didn't think that he would abandon himself and go to the Spirit Province. It could be seen that the sect leader of Grand Change Nebula sect had many disciples, and Xianxia could only be considered average among them. The eyes of Lin Ling and the others flickered as they were curious about the strength of this martial progenitor. Even though Lin Ling had only killed a few martial progenitors with the help of the god-slaying formation, the martial progenitors from the era of the gods were definitely extraordinary. Of course, Lin Ling was only slightly curious. He wasn't really surprised. They are Xing Shiyun's disciples? Looks like Lao Xing knows his limits, so he placed his hopes on these few disciples. However, the strength of these few brats is also not strong. The old ancestor glanced at Lin Ling and the others. His words carried a trace of contempt. Seeing this, junior uncle he smiled and didn't say anything. On the other hand, the young men behind the old man were looking at Lin Ling and the others provocatively. They were obviously here to participate in the test as well. All of them were at the half-step saint realm. The weakest among them was at the 7th level of the half-step saint realm. There were even existences at the 9th level of the half-step saint realm. Furthermore, their talents all exceeded a 5th grade desolate body. Perhaps, in the assessment of the Great Change Nebula sect, the lowest cultivation level would be at the 5th level of the half-saint realm and the talent of a 5th grade wild body. No wonder those young men provoked Lin Ling's group. Obviously, they felt a strong sense of superiority in front of Lin Ling's group. This is Xia Lu from the evil warding Xia family. He is a good seedling. This is Huan Juesher from the Great Celestial Demon Mansion. He is the most talented among the seedlings that I recommended this year. After the old man smiled, he introduced the young man behind him. Although his tone was calm, it was filled with pride. Hee hee. Junior uncle he could only laugh dryly. The two of them walked together. From the spirit state? Small place. I am from the evil warding Xia family, which is famous in the 9 states. Along the way, the young men greeted each other. One of them looked at Lin Ling and the others and said. Lin Ling held Xiao Yu's hand and chatted with Meng Lu and the others. His face was calm and relaxed. This made the young men's faces turn ugly. One had to know that the geniuses who could come to the flame state all had strong backing. Lin Ling and the others were only from the spirit state. They were insignificant. How dare they ignore them? I think that you will have a hard time in this assessment. You might be chased away. Xia Lu from the evil warding Xia family said again. Evil warding Xia family? Lin Ling felt a sense of familiarity. If he wasn't mistaken, in the divine dreamland, he had also encountered people from this family. Thank you for your concern. If you don't pass the assessment, then that means we are only so. When the time comes and you pass the assessment, we will cheer for you. That's right, that's right. You are a great person who doesn't care about the past offenses of lowly people like us. Please forgive us. Lin Ling and Sakura both spoke out. Their words caused the young men's jaws to drop open. This was because these people were all geniuses of the 9 states. They were all proud and arrogant. They had never seen someone like Lin Ling and the others, surrendering with just a few words. And this sort of humble attitude left them unable to refute for a while. Instead, there was a stifling feeling in their hearts. It was like they had punched cotton. It was like although Lin Ling and the others were flattering them, this sort of flattery didn't come from their hearts. Good luck. Dreamflow also spoke out. He followed Lin Ling as he strode forwards. Even Xiao Yu waved her fists at them. Damn, they are only at the 5th level of half-saints. Why do I feel like they are speaking to little children? I also have this feeling. But what makes me feel the most aggrieved is that I feel like a little child instead. Perhaps we have wronged them. They never had the heart to compete with us. These youths all had different opinions, but they all gradually stuck out their chests. As they walked, they felt as if they were floating. How could they know that Lin Ling truly didn't have the heart to compete with them? Although they might be powerful half-saints of the 9 states. But, Lin Ling was the son of the demon race. In addition, they had come here to avoid the limelight. Lin Ling didn't want to be in the limelight. Evil warding Xia family? Second brother. I remember now. Do you still remember that Tian who was struck twice by us in the divine dreamland? As they walked forwards, Sakura suddenly said. Dreamflow and Lin Ling were stunned for a moment before they burst into laughter. Speaking of which, Tian had also traveled with them. However, the second time they met, he was once again knocked unconscious by Lin Ling's large sword. At that time, Lin Ling felt a little guilty. He had planned to return the favor when they met again. I wonder if he came to the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect's disciple recruitment this time. He is the nemesis of the ghost demons. However, the Yen state is so big. He shouldn't only appear in the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect. I am curious about his strength. In the past, we were a little afraid of him and relied on those spirit talismans to crush him. Now, if we were to fight, I have 60% confidence that I can defeat him. Subsequently, Lin Ling and the other two spoke one after another. Dreamflow also glanced at Lin Ling. He had a feeling that Tian was no match for Lin Ling. As for Martial Uncle He, when he saw Lin Ling and the others talking and laughing, he couldn't help but shake his head helplessly. Chapter 32-27. Goodbye, Xia Tianyi. Wow, isn't that Xia Tianyi from the evil warding Xia family? He's here too. As they continued forward, a commotion suddenly broke out in front of them. Looking around, it was actually filled with the geniuses of the 9 prefectures. The number of people was beyond imagination. Obviously, some of these young men had powerful backgrounds, and some of them were the juniors who were specially groomed by the big forces. They were recommended to join the Great Change Nebula sect. What surprised Lin Ling and the others was that Xia Tianyi really came. Is that Yi Ling Tian, the #1 half-step saint stage genius in Yuzhou? It's him? His brother is the #1 sage in Yuzhou, Yi Lin Yun. I didn't expect him to come too. There are so many geniuses today. The exclamations continued to ring out on Green Mountain. Yi Lin Yun. Lin Ling and Sakura looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh. It's that big brother. Even Xiao Yu smiled. In the God Slayer Alliance, apart from the 3 leaders, there was another person who had a good relationship with Lin Ling and the others. It was none other than Yuzhou's #1 genius, Yi Lin Yun. He did not know where that guy was hiding now. Would he appear in the Grand Change Nebula sect? Young master, you know Yi Lin Yun? Do Afterimage asked curiously. I know him. He's also from the God Slayer Alliance. TSK. The God Slayer Alliance has gathered all the powerful geniuses of the 9 prefectures. They are all hot-blooded youths. In my opinion, the half-saint realm geniuses present here are no match for the God Slayer Alliance. Hearing this, Do Kening couldn't help but praise. He was glad that Lin Ling was able to join the God Slaying Alliance because this was also a type of affirmation. Yi Ling Tian, long time no see. Just as everyone was staring at Yi Ling Tian, a chuckle was heard. Then, lightning struck, turning into thunder and lightning under the Green Mountain. Finally, it formed a man in purple. This man had his hands behind his back and was extremely handsome. However, this wasn't just handsome, it was the aura of a brave man. Could it be Zilong, the #1 genius of the half-saint realm in the Yen state, who once lost to Sanzi? The power of purple lightning. That's right, it's him. After a brief moment of astonishment, the people's exclamations were like waves. I heard that this guy has the speed of 90 worlds. Who in the half-saint realm has the speed of 90 boundaries? Behind the young men were some guards and attendants. They were all at the saint realm, but at this moment, they all cried out in surprise. Unless one was a saint realm expert that was skilled in movement techniques. Otherwise, even a saint realm expert would be inferior to that young man called Zilong. The desolate body is at least in the range of grade 8, or even stronger. Meng Lu stared at the young man calmly. He knew how powerful the young man was. Apart from second brother, it will be difficult for the rest of us to defeat him. The corner of Sakura's mouth revealed a trace of battle intent. Ever since Lin Ling gave him the Nether Dragon Companion liquid, his strength and talent had greatly increased, so he didn't fear the #1 half-step saint stage genius of the Yen province. Lost to the triplets? Young master in the divine dreamland, that triplet fellow was killed by me. Do Afterimage seemed to have thought of something and suddenly reminded him. Lin Ling nodded in realization. At that time, they were fighting for the Boat of Gods. Then, a young man appeared and attacked Lin Ling, but he was killed by Do Afterimage. If he remembered correctly, that was the #1 half-step saint stage genius of the Yen province, the triplets, and Zilong was defeated by him. Zilong, if you have the ability, don't use that extreme weapon of yours. Let's see who's stronger. Haha, Yilington, even if I don't use an extreme weapon, with my talent and strength, defeating you is as easy as flipping my hand. At this moment, the 2 #1 geniuses of the Divine Prefecture were tit for tat. Hey, you guys seem to be ignoring me. Not to be outdone, Xia Tianyi said in a cold voice. The 2 geniuses of the Divine Prefecture had obviously heard of this person, so they didn't underestimate him. Perhaps among the half-step saints present today, he was the only one who could be taken seriously. Xianxia family, Although you have some ability, if we really fight, you're not my match. Within 100 moves, who knows who will win and who will lose, but within 1,000 moves, you'll lose. Zilong said lightly. His words mixed with confidence. Within 1,000 moves, who knows who will win and who will lose. However, Xianxia wasn't at a disadvantage at all. Whoosh! The three of them were undoubtedly the focus of attention, but soon, a strong wind blew. Then, a woman in a black dress stepped on the strong wind and appeared before everyone's eyes at the speed of 80 worlds. Although the speed of 80 worlds was slightly weaker than Zilong's, compared to the other youths, it was still far beyond them. So strong, who is this beauty? Ru, the bloodline of the dragon clan. She's one of the few in the dragon clan who has a human form and the aura of a dragon. Moreover, she's a true disciple of Miao Shen. In the past, I saw her walking very close to Yeshua. Bloodline of the dragon clan? At present, apart from Ru, there's also someone called Longyang who has a human form and the aura of a dragon. She's also very powerful. It's not just the two of them. I heard that the son of the demon also has the aura of a dragon. The son of the demon doesn't count. He's a member of the God Slayer Alliance. He's someone we have to look up to. How can we compare to him? There was a lot of discussion. Lin Ling looked at Ru curiously and said lightly, "The aura of the Nether Dragon." Second brother, I've also noticed it. Sakura had also used the Nether Dragon's half-life liquid, so he naturally felt it too. At the same time, the black-robed woman also looked at Lin Ling's side. She seemed to have sensed something and immediately smiled at Lin Ling and Zilong. This smile shocked everyone. They all looked at Lin Ling's side and found that there was no outstanding person. Could it be an illusion? Even Zilong and Yi Lingtian's experts looked at Lin Ling but quickly shook their heads. It's you guys? On the contrary, Xianxia recognized Lin Ling's group and walked over with a hearty laugh. I didn't expect to have a chance to see you guys again after we parted last time. After we parted last time, I wanted to look for you guys. Unfortunately, I was hit by a stick and fainted on the spot. Despicable son of the demon and son of bone. It's them. Xianxia shouted as he walked. Lin Ling and the rest smiled bitterly. This guy still didn't know that they were the ones who hit him? However, when Xianxia walked over like this, it caused many people to look over. This made Lin Ling and the rest somewhat unhappy. They were here to avoid the limelight and not to show off. With Xianxia doing this, they had no choice but to show off. They hoped that no one would recognize them. But luckily, 9 regions was very big. Many people had heard of the son of the demon, but very few had seen him. Damn, speaking of the son of the demon, I'm filled with anger. Look at the bumps on my head. They haven't disappeared yet. There are 2 of them. That guy is really ruthless. Arriving in front of Lin Ling, Xianxia showed the 2 bumps on his head. Sakura and the rest were tongue-tied. Lin Ling was speechless. Xianxia, who are these guys? They aren't strong. You even know such ants? This doesn't seem to be your style. Chapter 32-28. Crystal Ball Test. They are my brothers in the Grand Change Nebula sect. Brother, protect them. Attacking them is the same as attacking me. Unexpectedly, Xianxia walked out, patted his chest and said. Everyone's expression changed slightly. They were a little envious of Lin Ling and the others. This was because even though they had powerful escorts with them, their escorts were not allowed to enter the Great Change Nebula sect. Therefore, if they were humiliated in the sect, they could only rely on the people around them. Interesting. If I have the chance to meet them, I will teach them a lesson. Zilong suddenly smiled. Only they were not afraid of Xianxia. How dare you? Xianxia immediately roared. Dong dong dong. However, at this moment, the ancient bell rang. It was only one sound, but it echoed through the green mountains that were connected to each other. Endless echoes immediately appeared. There was a fairy in everyone's mind that seemed to have been electrocuted. Only Lin Ling, who had a strong defense, remained unmoved. However, he was slightly shocked and said, The power of rank. A bell has the power of rank. The Grand Change Nebula sect is stronger than I thought. At the same time, an old voice sounded, Dear Heavens of Jojo, thank you for choosing Grand Change Nebula sect. Let's begin the assessment. If you pass, You will become a citizen of Yen State. From now on, you can enter and leave Yen State at will. If you fail, you will have to leave and come back next year. Everyone was in high spirits. In fact, the purpose of these young geniuses coming to the Great Change Nebula sect was not only to attend the Martial Ancestors Forum discussion, but also to obtain the identity of the Yen province. Not just anyone could come to the Yen State. Experts like Afterimage could only stay for a short period of time, not including the people of this miracle continent. Talent test. Those with 5 rays of light pass. At the same time, a meteor shower fell from the sky and landed on the ground, turning into transparent glass balls. Lin Ling, hurry up and get the glazed balls. These glazed balls have to be handed over in an hour. Uncle Master he also walked over quickly and exhorted, this is a test of talent. Those without a desolate body will definitely encounter a powerful attack when holding the ball. As for those with a desolate body, the ball will acknowledge their existence. However, if they cannot make the glass ball emit 5 beams of light, they will also be eliminated. Hearing that, Lin Ling, Sakura, and the others hurried forward. In the Green Mountain, there was chaos as well. All the young men were fighting for the glazed balls. Get lost, I saw it first. What are you in such a hurry for? There are so many of these colored glass balls. Are you afraid there won't be any left? I like it. What can you do about it? It was related to whether or not they could become a citizen of the Yen State, so everyone was a little restless. Lin Ling and the others repeatedly tried to pick up the glazed balls, but they were all snatched away by others. In the end, Lin Ling and the others' expressions turned cold, and they decided to erupt with a portion of their strength. Get out of here. Someone immediately wanted to snatch the crystal ball that he had just taken a fancy to. Do you know what you're talking about? Lin Ling immediately looked over. The young man smiled disdainfully and turned back to look at Lin Ling. However, the next moment, his forehead was covered in cold sweat. In Lin Ling's eyes, he saw a terrifying scene. It was as if the heavens and earth were collapsing. There was the illusion god, the dragon god, and the 4 ferocious creatures. Here. The young man retreated. As for Lin Ling, he retracted his gaze and picked up a few glazed balls. He handed them to Sakura and the others and then left the crowd. At this moment, at the edge of the Green Mountain, those who had obtained the glazed balls sat down cross-legged and used their desolate bodies to activate the glazed balls. Bang! Some people failed. Without a desolate body, they were sent flying by the glazed ball's feedback and were directly eliminated. Some people who had cultivated for more than 2,500 years were also directly eliminated. Seeing this, Sakura and the others became nervous. This was because if Lin Ling entered the Yen State and they failed, it would be ugly. Therefore they had to work harder. As for Meng Lu, he held the glazed ball in his hand and closed his eyes. Immediately, the originally transparent glazed ball turned pitch black. Ghostly aura rippled and the scene of the demon god's tomb appeared. At the same time, the glazed ball bloomed with 7 beams of light. This meant that he had a 7th grade desolate body. You actually improved your desolate body by so much after returning home. Seeing this, Sakura cried out in surprise and also activated the glazed ball. Moments later, 6 beams of light bloomed, making him chuckle. As for Lin Ling, he sat cross-legged and also looked at the glazed ball. Brother, can you see your talent from this? Beside him, Xiaoyu leaned forward and curiously stared at the glazed ball. Lin Ling smiled and nodded. This thing seems to be made from a boulder left behind from the era of the gods. It can indeed see one's talent. Hurry! Xiaoyu wants to see your brother's talent. Hurry! Xiaoyu had the heart of a child and was curious about everything. All right. Lin Ling immediately nodded. Closing his eyes, he activated his talent. The glazed ball immediately emitted 5 beams of flame, representing a 5th grade desolate body. However, this was not the end. Lin Ling was still activating his talent, causing a dragon god to appear in the glazed ball. It continued to roar and another 5 beams of light bloomed. Beside him, Xiaoyu immediately exclaimed. Furthermore, this was not the end. A ferocious creature appeared in the glazed ball. It opened its mouth wide and wanted to devour the world. It was a realm-devouring beast. Another 5 beams of light appeared. This meant that among Lin Ling's 4 Dantians, 3 of them were 5th grade desolate bodies. At the same time, Lin Ling opened his eyes and could not help but be surprised. Following that, his expression changed and he quickly retracted all his power. He only allowed the glazed ball to release its fire elemental talent. This was because he did not expect the glazed ball to be so powerful that it could detect everything about him. And the 3 desolate bodies were all 5th grade, which added up to a 5th grade desolate body. This would definitely alarm the Grand Change Nebula sect. At this moment, he did not want to be in the limelight. In fact, he was indeed alarmed. At this moment, in the upper echelons of the Grand Change Nebula sect, there was a void filled with bamboo slips. A large number of elders sat quietly. They looked at the bamboo slips that filled the sky as if they were investigating something. TSKSK, a 7th grade desolate body has appeared. I have an 8th grade one here. Heavens, a 9th grade one has appeared here. Those old men all smiled with satisfaction. Suddenly, one of the elders' expression changed greatly. He pointed at one of the bamboo slips and exclaimed, "Ah!" This sudden exclamation completely frightened the surrounding people. Elder Hu, why are you so surprised? Everyone looked over with resentment. I just saw a 5th grade desolate body. The elder began to speak incoherently. His words silenced the void. There was a 5th grade desolate body in the land of the 9 prefectures? This must be a joke. According to logic, if it exceeded the 10th grade, it would be an ultimate desolate body. Elder Hu, you must be seeing things. Everyone shook their heads. Do you think someone with the heavenly tiger sacred realm physique would be seeing things? Elder Hu immediately retorted, causing everyone to frown. This was indeed impossible. Chapter 32-29. The Long March of the Starry Sky. How would I know? The feedback from the bamboo scroll is that there are indeed 15 lights. Furthermore, the lights are all different. Tell me, if this person has different desolate bodies, is it possible to have a 5th grade desolate body when added together? It's indeed possible. That's not right. How can a warrior have so many desolate bodies? It's too heaven-defying. Instantly, the elders were confused. A 5th grade desolate body seemed impossible, but having 3 5th grade desolate bodies was also impossible. Finally, they could only stare at the bamboo scroll, wanting to know who the owner of the bamboo scroll was. However, Lin Ling had already thrown away the glass ball from before and found a new one. As for the group of elders in the void, they were still staring at the bamboo scroll, but in the end, their eyes hurt and they could not see anything. This must be a disciple of constellation clouds. His talent barely qualifies. The other 2 are not bad. One is a 6th grade and the other is a 7th grade. Instead, in a corner, 2 elders looked at the bamboo scroll and said, "Sigh, such talent does not catch master's eye." Following that, they ignored the bamboo scroll and treated it as the most ordinary thing in the assessment. Those who have 5 lights have successfully passed the first assessment. The second assessment is the Long March of the Starry Sky. Remember, you only have 2 hours. Before the time is up, you must traverse the myriad of worlds and find a token that belongs to you. Of course, if you are confident in yourself, you can go to the end. There is a source of life there that can greatly increase your strength. Of course, the Long March of the Starry Sky also has fey beasts. They are estimated to be at the peak of the half-saint realm. There are also weaker ones. If you know you are no match for them, you can think of ways to escape. Furthermore, there are stellar stones in the starry sky. They are treasures used to refine extreme weapons. If you can obtain them, they will be yours. If you pass this major assessment, you can also become a citizen of the Yen state. When the voice drifted out, those who had passed the test were all excited. Source of life? Sakura was very interested in the ultimate treasure. Tesuke, this is a treasure slightly weaker than the nether dragon's half-life liquid. Lin Ling's eyes flickered. Lin Ling, this treasure belongs to us. Dreamflow licked his lips, but Lin Ling smiled and said, the long march of the nebula is all about speed, and there are many people here who aren't weak in terms of speed. Therefore, I'll leave the source of life to you. You guys go and get the stellar stone. All right. Dreamflow and the others nodded. Brother. Xiaoyu tugged at Lin Ling's clothes. Lin Ling smiled and said, Xiaoyu, you won't be able to enter the nebula expedition. Follow old Do. Big brother will be out in 2 hours. All right. Xiaoyu nodded obediently. She hugged the little rabbit and held the little deer as she waited for Lin Ling to wake up. As for the others, their eyes flickered strangely. Clearly, they were all very interested in the source of life. As expected of a big sect in the Yen state. If such a treasure were placed in other divine prefectures, it would be regarded as a regional treasure. However, the Grand Change Nebula sect is using it as a reward. They are a sect left behind from the era of gods. The treasures they obtained during the era of gods far exceed our imaginations. There is no comparison. The source of life belongs to me. After a huge black hole appeared in the sky, the young men were in high spirits as they rushed into it. So did Lin Ling and the others. The black hole was like a universe with a myriad of worlds. It was like another 9 prefectures. However, Lin Ling knew that this was just a means of a martial ancestor expert. Unless Lin Ling used the deity's formation, he would not be able to break this means. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In the pitch-black void, the people started to rush forward. Some of them were lucky enough to get their own tokens and pass the test smoothly. However, they still wanted to get more rewards, so they continued to rush forward. There were 50 realm speed, 60 realm speed, and even 70 realm speed. This kind of speed could be said to be unique among the Sage-to-Be realm. Lin Ling and the others followed behind the crowd leisurely. They were not in a hurry. After an unknown period of time, when there were fewer and fewer people around, Lin Ling and the other 2 looked at each other and said in unison, "Let's go." Lin Ling's 70 realm speed had not reached the peak. Sakra's speed was the slowest, 50 realm speed. As for Dreamflow, 60 realm speed. Lin Ling, let's get a token first. Dreamflow was secretly surprised by Lin Ling's speed, but he still spoke up. Lin Ling nodded. They wildly dashed through the pitch-black void. Before long, he found his own token. Next was Sakra and the others. With a token in hand, they had passed. But Lin Ling and the others weren't willing to stop here. "Let's go and get more star stones. Hide your identity and don't show off." Okay. The 3 of them put on large cloaks and concealed their auras. Then they madly dashed forwards. Before long, a great battle appeared in front of them. This was because a human-sized starstone had appeared. 2 groups of people were competing for it. One side had over a dozen people and the other side only had a single person. Attack. Follow the plan of the divine dreamland. Lin Ling's eyes shined with a sharp light. He immediately attacked the strongest person. With the tyrant song sword in hand, the divinity and demon body erupted. This sword was like the era of gods. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The strongest youth didn't think that someone would sneak up on him. His head was smashed and a small bump floated out. He struggled to turn his head and look at the cloaked Lin Ling. "Motherfucker, is it you again? In the divine dreamland in the flame state, why do you always sneak up on me?" As he finished speaking, he fainted. "Damn, it's Xianxia again." Not too far away, Sakra cried out in alarm. Dreamflow was dumbfounded. Lin Ling was speechless. What, him again? This was the 3rd time. "Brother Tianyi, I'm sorry. If there is a chance next time, I, Lin Ling, will return your favor." Then, Lin Ling began to attack the remaining people. With their strength, they were no different from hungry wolves jumping into a flock of sheep. After 3 incense sticks of time, everyone was knocked unconscious and their harvests were seized by Lin Ling and the others. There was no time to lose. Lin Ling and the others once again set foot on their journey. They plundered everything along the way and seized a massive number of stellar stones. Although these treasures could be used to temper extreme tools, to Lin Ling, they could also enhance the strength of his divinity and demon body. He had already treated his mortal body as a treasure to temper. "Lin Ling, we've already obtained many stellar stones. You can go to the finish line now. The remaining stellar stones will be seized by me and Sakra." Dreamflow's voice carried a trace of excitement. He knew that following Lin Ling, life would be extraordinary. "All right." Lin Ling finally erupted with a formidable speed, reaching 90 worlds of speed. "This fellow." Seeing this, Dreamflow was startled. His speed isn't just this. Sakra had already experienced Lin Ling's speed, so he was accustomed to it. Where did Lin Ling go during this time? How did his strength increase so much? I can never catch up to him, and I am the young master of the Gravekeeper race. Dreamflow was clearly struck. Young master? Roast a pig. Hurry up and get to work. Unfortunately, Sakura didn't give him any face. Chapter 32:30. A great battle against the realm-swallowing beast. What is this? What incredible speed! I can't see it at all. The young geniuses that Lin Ling passed by all had their mouths agape. It's at least 90 world speed. One of the black-clothed women said with a frown. She was Euro. Then, she waved her hands to create a barrier. She wanted to freeze time and see who was coming. However, it was useless. The speed of this person seemed to be faster than time. Awesome! At this moment, Lin Ling was running madly, surpassing many young geniuses in the 9 provinces. Not long after, 2 people finally appeared in front of them. One was Zi Long, and the other was Yi Ling Tian. They were actually the last ones to walk. Their speed was clearly the fastest among everyone present. However, the arrival of Lin Ling from behind immediately gave them a fright. Among so many young people this year, there was actually someone who could reach the speed of 90 realms. Who are you, sir? The purple dragon said angrily, as if the light that belonged to him had been snatched away by someone else. Someone you need to look up to. Lin Ling glanced at the 2 of them indifferently. The rain technique descended like a storm. The power of cultivation level was extremely terrifying. 120 world speed erupted. Then, it turned into a beautiful afterimage and shot past the 2 of them. The 2 of them were dumbstruck. They looked at each other, only to see the shock in each other's eyes. Weren't they the strongest half-saints among the geniuses of the 9 prefectures? But who was this person who suddenly ran over? While they were still in disbelief, Lin Ling had already disappeared into the distance. If it were anyone else, they would need half a day to reach the end of this long journey. However, for Lin Ling, an hour was more than enough. With his current speed, if he wanted to travel through the eastern, western, southern and southern realms, this would undoubtedly save a lot of time. At the same time, the surroundings began to change quietly. Ancient stone tablets floated in the void, as if they were rocks left behind by the gods. Lin Ling's eyes lit up. Activating his myriad mammoth magic eyes, he could vaguely make out a huge city wall up ahead. The city wall blocked off the path ahead, and within the city wall was a green jade bottle. The origin of life. Lin Ling's lips curled into a smile. However, he was also a little shocked. That wall was simply too huge. Only a martial ancestor-level expert could set up such a wall in the starry sky. Without any hesitation, Lin Ling shot forward. At the same time, in the void of the Great Change Nebula sect, the old men smiled. Amazing. In such a short time, someone actually reached the finish line. It seems like there are good seedlings among the geniuses of the 9 prefectures this time. I think it should be Purple Dragon. That guy has the desolate lightning physique, one of the 100 great bloodlines. Speed is his forte. Perhaps. He's still hiding his strength in this assessment. You want to know his strength? Then release a stronger demonic beast. Finally, an old man said as he stroked his beard. Everyone nodded their heads. Although they couldn't see who was at the finish line, they guessed that it must be Purple Dragon. Okay, I've released it. After a while, another person said with a smile. His words made the old men look at him. When they saw the black bamboo slip in his hand, the old men's faces changed drastically. Elder Hu, don't tell me you've released that demonic beast. Yes, don't you want to see his strength? Oh my god, although that demonic beast is still in its growth stage, its strength is comparable to that of a second heaven sage. You're going to kill Purple Dragon. Ah, didn't you ask me to release it? What should we do now? What else can we do? I hope Purple Dragon can sense the aura of that demonic beast and leave the finish line immediately. Sighs could be heard one after another. At this moment, Lin Ling wasn't really vigilant at the finish line. Because he'd heard that the dangers he encountered on the Starry Sky journey were at most at the peak of the half-saint realm. So, he was obviously not afraid of such strength. Therefore, he quickly went to the Spring of Life and collected the treasure. Then he turned around and left. However, the walls had turned pitch black all of a sudden. A strong murderous aura was emitted from the walls. When Lin Ling rushed forward, something strange happened. A huge mouth appeared and tried to swallow Lin Ling. The mouth was also pitch black. If one didn't look carefully, they would think it was a starry sky. However, Lin Ling reacted quickly. After his expression changed, he immediately burst out with speed and frantically retreated. Then he stared at the huge mouth and couldn't help but curse. Realm-devouring beast? Who the fuck said that there are only demonic beasts at the peak of the Sage-to-Be realm in the Starry Sky expedition? He was extremely depressed at the moment. He couldn't figure out what had happened. However, the realm-devouring beast didn't give Lin Ling time to think. It was like a black sea rolling and trying to swallow Lin Ling. Bastard! Lin Ling cursed angrily and unleashed his rain technique. Only then did he manage to avoid the gigantic mouth. He couldn't help but feel annoyed because the realm-devouring beast was immortal. For so many years, he had seen countless realm-devouring beasts, but he had only seen one corpse horror in Qingzhou's Grand Court Commandery. Rumble! The realm-devouring beast seemed determined to swallow Lin Ling obviously. It had sensed the ominous aura hidden in Lin Ling's body. Most importantly, the area within the wall was very small. Therefore, as time passed, Lin Ling became more and more dangerous. Oh no! At the same time, Lin Ling screamed because he had been sealed by the Black Sea. There was no way to escape. Instead, a huge mouth directly swallowed him whole. This was the first time he had been swallowed by the realm-devouring beast. Fight! Lin Ling was in the body of the realm-devouring beast. He let out a roar. He didn't die when he destroyed the god. How could he die in the mouth of the realm-devouring beast? Plus, was it the only realm-devouring beast? He used all of his godly demon body. He also used the talent of the realm-devouring beast to fight back. In the body of the realm-devouring beast, a mysterious black substance spread out. It seemed to be able to corrode any power. That was why the realm-devouring beast was so scary. However, after Lin Ling's realm-devouring beast burst out, the black substance ignored Lin Ling. It was as if it recognized Lin Ling's existence. Although Lin Ling didn't know why it was like that, at this moment, he would definitely fight back with all his might. The time and space tablet descended and smashed into the body of the realm-devouring beast. It caused the Black Sea to become even more turbulent. The tyrant song sword appeared, and Lin Ling kept slashing. The steps of the demon's sword actually separated the Black Sea. But then, Lin Ling discovered that in the Black Sea, there was something floating. Upon closer inspection, it was a calf-sized aphid. It was a product of the realm-devouring beast's body. It was said that it could refine and swallow everything. Chapter 32-31. Who would swallow who? Although Lin Ling had 120 world speed, he could not unleash this speed in the body of the realm-swallowing beast. At the critical moment, Lin Ling shouted, "1,000 transformations!" Countless Lin Ling appeared, attracting the attention of the aphids. Using this opportunity, Lin Ling kept slashing with his sword, killing the aphids. However, there were too many aphids. There were still aphids entangling Lin Ling, and a sharp mouth pierced towards Lin Ling's body. This change was too sudden, and Lin Ling could not react in time. Dragon Bone! However, Lin Ling's pupils constricted, and a sharp light bloomed. Ka! Terrifying physical strength erupted, and the dragon bone formed a strong defense, blocking the sharp mouth. If the mouth entered Lin Ling's body, Lin Ling would be sucked clean. After blocking the sharp mouth, Lin Ling unleashed all his strength, and his 4 dantians merged with his body. Boom! A terrifying thing happened. The aphids, which were the size of calves, were crushed by Lin Ling. Smelly black blood splattered all over Lin Ling. The sword god is coming. At the same time, Lin Ling slashed with his sword, cutting all the aphids that tried to pounce on him in half. Using this opportunity, he rushed forward. The surrounding illusions were also swallowed by the aphids, and Lin Ling became more and more anxious. Slash! 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 At this moment, Lin Ling could only rush forward, cutting open the Black Sea. In the end, even little Kunlun appeared, forming a sharp vine array around Lin Ling, cutting everything. However, little Kunlun's appearance did not help much, because the surrounding Black Sea was swallowing little Kunlun. Obviously, Lin Ling had a fierce aura, so he was only afraid of the aphids. However, little Kunlun was not. Little Kunlun, come back now. Lin Ling made the call, and he had no choice but to use the catastrophe-destroying Sun Bao. He had already made up his mind. If he could not get out of the world-swallowing beast's body, then he would risk his life to activate the true inheritance dark sword. Shill! 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 Shill, shill. The Black Sea was stirred up and scattered, revealing a large space. Suddenly, Lin Ling saw a black sarcoma in the center of the space. It was like a heart. Is this the heart of the realm-swallowing beast? Lin Ling's expression changed. He did not care whether he guessed it or not. He pounced on the sarcoma, and then he slashed. In an instant, the entire black ocean started to shake, and numerous cries of pain resounded. Lin Ling knew that he had made the right bet. We are both realm-swallowing beasts. If you want to swallow me, why don't I swallow you? Lin Ling's eyes turned cold. He chopped the black tumor into pieces and stuffed them all into his mouth. The taste was bloody, and Lin Ling almost vomited. But he knew that this was more precious than the corpse of the realm-swallowing beast, so he forced himself to swallow it. It had to be said that the sarcoma was disgusting, but the effect was very obvious. Lin Ling felt a mysterious power surging into his limbs and bones. It made the murderous aura move. Boom! He could not help it. It was as if something in his body had exploded. His whole body exploded. At the same time, in the Black Sea, a mud appeared. Its giant mouth was moving. It was a new one of the 4 great murderous beasts, the realm-swallowing beast. Shit, I have completely become a realm-swallowing beast. The scariest thing was that the realm-swallowing beast was speaking in human language. And he was Lin Ling. Looking at the Black Sea around him, he saw that it had dried up and turned into gray rocks. It was like the city wall that Lin Ling saw in Qing State's Grand Court County. This was the corpse of the realm-swallowing beast. I have become a realm-swallowing beast? Lin Ling was still in shock. Could it be that he was going to swallow 10,000 worlds, or even Jojo? After the shock, he could not help but feel happy. But thinking of the test, he knew that now was not the time to check on the realm-swallowing beast. How can I change back? Lin Ling muttered to himself. As if it knew what he was thinking, the black mud began to change. It turned into a human shape and gradually became Lin Ling's silhouette. I have returned to my original body. Lin Ling was suddenly happy. Looking at his naked body, he knew that the flesh and blood of this body had turned into that of the realm-swallowing beast, and the bones were dragon bones. Then, he took out his clothes and put them on. He quickly left the place. When he was outside, he saw that the entire giant realm-swallowing beast had turned into rock. Realm-swallowing beast corpse horror. Lin Ling could not help but lick his lips. But after estimating the time, he reluctantly gave up on the corpse horror. Because he needed to collect the corpse horror, it would take some time. Moreover, he was afraid that he would be discovered by the Grand Change Nebula sect if he swallowed the realm-swallowing beast. So he burst out at full speed and rushed toward the exit. After half an hour, he finally saw the scattered people leaving toward the exit. This let Lin Ling know that he had finally made it. He slowed down and followed the crowd toward the exit. At the moment, under the Green Mountain, there was a lot of noise. Some people had obviously passed, and some had failed. Lin Ling. After seeing Lin Ling, a voice came from afar. It was Dream Flow. Seeing this, Lin Ling blinked and walked over in an extremely low-key manner. Did you get the token? Uncle He also walked over and looked at Lin Ling expectantly. Lin Ling immediately nodded. Haha, that's great. This also allows me to account to Senior Xing. Congratulations to the 3 of you for becoming citizens of the Yen State. The citizens of the Yen State have an outstanding status in the 9 states. With this status alone, other than the Yen State and the Miao State, no one in the 9 states would dare to provoke you. Even the Emperor God is no exception. Martial Uncle He said with a smile. Then, he left after giving some instructions. It seemed like he had some matters to attend to. Thank you, Uncle He. Lin Ling and the others immediately bowed. They could tell that Uncle Master He was taking good care of them for Xing Shiyun's sake. No need. Your master saved me once in the past. Today, I am repaying his kindness. Rest for a while. I will take care of everything for you. Uncle He replied faintly from afar. After he left, Sakura and Dream Flow winked at Lin Ling, and so did Lin Ling. How's the Star Stone? Hee, don't worry. We took a lot. We won't let you down. What about the Source of Life? Got it. After hearing Lin Ling's words, Sakura and Dream Flow were obviously excited. Dream Flow asked curiously, You surpassed Zilong and the others? You reached the end faster than them? Or did you get it during the battle? Those guys aren't much of a threat to me, but this is the end point. Speaking of this, Lin Ling was obviously angry. Grand Change Nebula sect is lying. This end is not a demonic beast of the half-step saint realm, but a demonic beast of the sage realm. A demonic beast of the sage realm? What is that? Sakura and Dreamflow were shocked. Realm-devouring beast. Chapter 32-32. New Heavenly Court. That's not true. The beast swallowed me, but I swallowed it instead. Lin Ling shook his head. Silence. Meng Lu and Meng Lu were dead silent. They looked at Lin Ling as if they were looking at a monster. This guy even killed the realm-swallowing beast? That was too fierce. Congratulations. Congratulations. You've crossed the 10,000 worlds and reached the end in 2 hours. You're indeed the #1 sage to be genius of the Yen state. At this moment, an old man with his hands behind his back walked out from the crowd with a smile on his face. Everyone was still immersed in the joy of passing the test, but after hearing those words, their expressions changed greatly. Could it be that the purple dragon had reached the end? One had to know that they were also transmigrating through the starry sky, but in the end, they didn't even touch the hair of the destination. As expected of Zilong. Everyone looked at Zilong. Unexpectedly, the other party's expression was extremely ugly. He said angrily, "Senior, I didn't go to the end." What? Hearing that, the old man's expression changed. He looked at Yi Lingtian and asked, "Did you escape from the mouth of the realm-swallowing beast?" "Senior, it wasn't me either." Yi Lingtian's expression also turned ugly. It felt as if this senior was teasing them. It was because they weren't #1 at all. Instead, they saw an arrogant person pass by in front of them and seize #1. Ah! The old man's expression changed again. Then he transmitted his voice. "Senior brothers, please go to the finish line and take a look. I think the #1 mystery chaser is in trouble." As soon as the voice was transmitted, the old men in the void also sensed that something was wrong. Could the mysterious #1 have been swallowed by the realm-swallowing beast? They hurriedly rushed into the starry sky, and a moment later, they appeared at the end. Then, all of them fell silent, because an enormous corpse terror had appeared there. Did someone kill the realm-swallowing beast? Isn't the truth right in front of us? Do you still need us to explain? Although the realm-swallowing beast at the end is immature, it is still not something a half-step saint can handle. Yes, the realm-swallowing beast's immortal body is very famous in the 10,000 realms. The hearts of the old men began to race. Suddenly, they were filled with curiosity about the person who had killed the realm-swallowing beast. When the news spread, the old man's expression changed drastically, and he swept his gaze towards all the young geniuses as if he wanted to see through all of them. His gaze naturally went past Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling trio concealed themselves very well, resulting in the old man only giving them a cursory glance. In the end, the elder shook his head helplessly. There were too many people, and he couldn't find that ferocious person. However, as long as this powerful man entered the Grand Change Nebula sect, he would be discovered sooner or later. Therefore, he was not in a hurry. Next, he was going to arrange positions for the young geniuses in the Great Change Nebula sect. But at this moment, a whistling sound came from the sky, and a large number of people appeared in the sky. The young man in the lead wore a green robe, had a sword on his back, and stood on a golden flying dragon as he looked down at the ground below. Sure Fai-Along of the Heavenly Court. The young man glanced at the group of young men in disdain before bowing to the old man. Heavenly Court? The old man immediately frowned. Among the crowd, Lin Ling Trio's expressions changed, and they immediately calmed down. They didn't expect the Heavenly Court to not be destroyed, and they had even found the Great Change Nebula sect. Could it be that martial god Wen Tian knew where they were? However, it was apparent that they were overthinking. Although the Heavenly Court was destroyed, Master didn't want martial god Qilin to waste his life's efforts, so he rebuilt the Heavenly Court. The young man said proudly, and the old man nodded his head. With martial god Wen Tian's influence, it was not difficult for him to rebuild the Heavenly Court. This also meant that the Heavenly Court was actually destroyed. These people were from the new Heavenly Court. Then may I know why you're here? The old man said expressionlessly. We're looking for the son of the demon, young beast, Yi Shui, and Yi Linyun. I hope you can inform them when you see them. Master will reward them handsomely. The young man said indifferently. I've never seen them before. The old man's face turned even colder. This young man was only a martial sage. Although he might be powerful, his words were too arrogant. I'm sorry, I'm just doing my job. Since you've never seen them before, we'll have to look for them ourselves. Please forgive us if we've offended you. The young man shook his head and said helplessly, How dare you? The old man shouted angrily. Martial God Wen Tian. To everyone's surprise, the young man was not afraid at all. Instead, he took a step forward. Although the Great Change Nebula sect was famous in the Yen state, the sect leader was only a martial progenitor. He was no match for martial God Wen Tian. Dong. At that moment, a bell suddenly rang in the endless green mountains. The people of the heavenly court spat out mouthfuls of blood, and their faces changed greatly. The golden dragon beneath the young man in the lead started to tremble. After all, this was a dragon god from the dragon clan. If you want them, let martial god Wen Tian do it himself. Old man. From the green mountains, an old voice with endless majesty quietly sounded. Hearing this, the heavenly court's faces turned pale. The young man in the lead hurriedly transmitted his voice and seemed to have received a reply. He immediately smiled apologetically and said, Senior, we're not sure that those people are in the Great Change Nebula sect. We're just casually checking. However, we're sure that those people are definitely not here. Since you're so sincere in apologizing, I'll let bygones be bygones. However, I'd like to remind martial god Wen Tian that those people might be in the myriad of worlds. You should look for them there. The Green Mountains spoke again. Thank you, Senior. The people of the heavenly court quickly left. Seeing this, Lin Ling and the others finally heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, they were hiding in the Great Change Nebula sect. If they were anywhere else, no one would be able to stop the heavenly court's plundering. Now that the people of the heavenly court had left, they would not be able to guess that they were in the Yen state in the short term. I hope young Master Yao and the others can escape this round, Lin Ling said to himself. His gaze swept across and suddenly fell on a young man. This young man was Yi Ling Tian. He was obviously also exhaling a sigh of relief. This was because his elder brother was Yi Ling Yun, one of the people wanted by the martial god. All right, don't take what happened before to heart. The heavenly court is just here to go through the motions. Next, I'll arrange for everyone to enter the Great Change Nebula sect and announce your positions. The old man also looked at the crowd. Position? Senior, what's the position? Someone asked curiously. Chapter 32-33. Position. I understand. Everyone nodded their heads one after another, but they still couldn't let it go. It should be known that in the 9 prefectures, each and every one of them was an extremely powerful existence. It would not be difficult for them to become god emperors. But now, they had to work for someone else. This made them feel somewhat embarrassed. Setbacks are necessary if you want to obtain the martial ancestors' Tao discussion. Only a mediocre person would care about such things. Of course, there were also people who were not afraid to work for the Grand Change Nebula sect. All right, after I tell you my name, you can walk out yourselves. Su Pengfei, Su Yuan, Demon Army Son of Heaven, Tai Wu Zun, go to the back of the mountain to feed the demon beasts. Ah, we feed demonic beasts? Senior, with our status, we can only eat demonic beasts. How dare you? Do you think the demonic beasts of the Grand Change Nebula sect are ordinary demonic beasts? Let me tell you, those demonic beasts are extremely powerful. They are the seeds of the divine era. Each and every one of them can easily devour all of you. Also, are you going or not? Go, go, go. All right, next, Fairy Shui Hai, Tong Tsai, Lu Man, go to Eastern Mountain to plant the Earth Spirit. Senior, what is an Earth Spirit? It's a kind of natural treasure. To put it bluntly, it's to plant it. Ah, farming. Obviously, although the people present here had strong backgrounds, they were very ordinary in the Great Change Nebula sect. Everything was done by someone else. In this land full of miracles, there was nothing impossible. However, people also noticed that the talented and powerful young geniuses were given very good positions. For example, a person who was given the position of cleaning a martial arts training ground was obviously a good job. The other one was accompanying a martial progenitor realm elder as his servant. What a great job! This made many people envious and jealous. However, those people were not weak at all. Therefore, there was nothing they could do. Motherfucker, I'll leave this godforsaken place as soon as I'm done with this. Knowing that he had to work, Sakra's expression also turned unusually ugly. On the other hand, Lin Ling didn't care. However, it was soon time to read the names of Lin Ling and the other two. Their positions were to accompany martial uncle He to watch over the western mountains. Obviously, this was another great job. Basically, it was absolutely a great job to follow the seniors of the Grand Change Nebula. For a moment, everyone was even more envious. When they saw that it was Lin Ling and the other two, their eyes turned even redder. Wow, I'm envious. Even Xia Tianyi walked over with 3 small bags on her head and a smile on her face. When they saw him, Lin Ling and the others did not dare to look him in the eye. They could only laugh dryly. The old man finally spoke. What do you want to say? The old man looked at him coldly, causing the young man to stutter. He didn't dare to speak for a while. Go ahead, Sixth Spectre Venerable. What you said is actually what everyone wants to say. However, many people were supporting the young man. The young man finally raised his head and looked at Lin Ling and the other two. He said, the 3 of them only have a 5th grade desolate body. Their cultivation has just reached the 5th heaven of the half-saint realm. I think they should be given some positions. Am I right? Yes. Everyone agreed immediately. In fact, they weren't targeting Lin Ling and the other two. They just wanted to let Lin Ling and the other two get off to a good start. As long as Lin Ling and the other 3 handed over their positions, they could snatch the other good positions. Do you know who the 3 of them are? The old man guessed their thoughts. Their master used to be a member of the Grand Change Nebula sect. In other words, they are half a member of the Grand Change Nebula sect. Do you agree? When their master was working for the Grand Change Nebula sect, you didn't even know where they were. The Grand Change Nebula sect is the fairest. Their master left behind the karma, and they took the karma. Everyone was silent when they heard that. Lin Ling and the other two finally understood that it was martial uncle He who had helped them. Although they couldn't refute him, they wouldn't give up easily. Senior, why don't we do it this way? Let's use strength to determine the winner. Look at some of the talented geniuses from before. They all got good positions. We're convinced of that. However, if those geniuses want to get good positions, they'll have to go through everyone's challenge. The young man said again. Yes. Senior. The Grand Change Nebula sect doesn't raise useless people. We are from various forces in the 9 states. How can we be willing to be inferior to useless people? Senior, please make an exception for us. Voices drifted out from the Green Mountain one after another. Seeing that, the old man frowned. He glanced at the young men who were assigned positions but had average talents. Those young men were also frowning. They were obviously unhappy, but they didn't dare to say anything. Finally, the old man looked at Lin Ling and the other two and said, What do you think? Senior, I'm here to learn martial arts. I don't want to challenge you. I don't like fighting. Of course, Lin Ling wouldn't agree. It was better to have less trouble than more trouble. Hee, you're afraid. Boy, where are you from? Who is your master? I'm the 6 demons' honored son of the Divine Weapon Mansion. If you don't dare to fight, apologize in the name of your master and I'll let it go. Seeing Lin Ling shaking his head, the young man said indifferently. He was trying to provoke him. Lin Ling sneered when he heard that. Although he wanted to keep a low profile, the young man deliberately used the constellation Nebula. Although he was trying to provoke him, Lin Ling couldn't help it. Are you sure you want to fight with me? That's right. You can use any weapon. I'll take it. If you're afraid, apologize in the name of your master. Seeing that Lin Ling had relented, the young man smiled proudly. He was afraid that Lin Ling was spineless. Now that Lin Ling had shown his unyielding character, it was great. I'm afraid that you're not a match for me. Lin Ling finally walked out. The crowd immediately roared with laughter. The 6 demons' honored son had a 7th grade desolate body, and was at the 7th layer of the half-saint realm. He was the Divine Weapon Mansion's bodyguard and was very famous in the land of the 9 continents. No one knew Lin Ling. He only had a 5th grade desolate body and was at the 5th layer of the half-saint realm. How could he be so arrogant? Moreover, even some of the good-looking women were disgusted by Lin Ling. At the beginning, they sympathized with Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling said that the young man was not a match for him. This kind of arrogance was undoubtedly the most shameful. He really didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Chapter 32-34. What a stunning punch! Come out! The 6 fiend saints stepped into the Green Mountain. Moreover, with every step he took, he released a powerful desolate physique aura. A black rock snake slithered out from under his feet. It opened its mouth angrily and a wave of ferocious aura surged out like a weak tide. It was the rock god's bloodline, one of the 100 bloodlines. The cultivation of the 7th level of the half-saint realm had arrived. Apparently, he wanted to show Lin Ling the difference between the two of them. After all, his goal was to get the position. He did not want to offend a senior from the Great Simplicity Nebula sect. You are so weak. However, Lin Ling also walked out. He stared at the 6 Reaper Honorable and shook his head in disdain. A simple sentence immediately caused even more people to be dissatisfied. Although the 6 Reaper Honorable was not the most powerful person present, the strength that he had displayed earlier had won everyone's respect. However, Lin Ling only knew how to brag. If their master had not been a member of the Great Simplicity Nebula sect, they would have scolded him. Humph! The 6 Reaper Honorable snorted coldly. He was a proud person who had come to the Yen state. He had never been looked down upon like this before. 6 Reaper Honorable, we support you. Yes. But soon, many voices rose up from beneath the Green Mountain, causing 6 Demon Venerable to nod. Then, he turned into a cold beam of light that shot towards Lin Ling. If a martial artist's perception was strong, they would be able to see that this was like a snake attacking, incomparably fast. Moreover, the seniors of the Great Simplicity Nebula sect could see that the 6 Reaper Honorable was covered in a grey rock armor. It was formed by his talent. It was extremely powerful. Even Lin Ling's eyes lit up. The desolate body is not bad. However, the most important thing is that this guy's rank strength is extraordinary. He can attack and defend and has reached 70% of his rank strength. Yes. The 6 Reaper Honorable was much stronger than the half-saint realm experts that Lin Ling had seen before. Everyone was looking at Lin Ling. They didn't know how Lin Ling, who was only at the 5th layer of the half-saint realm, would fight back against the 6 Demon Venerable. This was especially true for the geniuses with great backgrounds. They began to assess the situation and realized that the only way to deal with 6 Spectre Venerable's fatal blow was to retreat. However, doing so would weaken their momentum, and they would have to face 6 Spectre Venerable's storm of attacks. However, Lin Ling finally made his move. He did not retreat, nor did he use any martial arts. He stretched out his left hand and clenched it into a fist. Then he lightly punched out. The fist collided with the rock snake in an instant, causing the air to explode and the Green Mountain to reverberate incessantly. Looking at Lin Ling again, he was still standing there like a pine tree. Everyone's pupils immediately trembled violently. So strong. The 6 Demons Venerable's complexion also changed slightly. He had discovered that Lin Ling's innate talent was fire attribute after he had exchanged a blow with Lin Ling. It didn't seem very strong on the surface, but the density of his boundary essence was beyond his imagination. It didn't seem like a 5th-level half-saint at all. Again. Of course, the 9 prefectures' geniuses who could appear here naturally wouldn't be easily defeated. The 6 demons Venerable slithered like a snake, causing a huge grey whirlpool. Upon closer inspection, it was a rock whirlpool. Although you have some ability, I have the rock god's bloodline. My defense is extremely strong, so I might not be able to defeat you in one move. However, after 10 or 100 moves, you will definitely reveal your flaws. In the air, the ferocious aura was extremely terrifying. A fatal blow appeared behind Lin Ling and shot towards Lin Ling. Bang! A dull sound was heard. What everyone expected did not happen. Instead, Lin Ling did not even look behind him. He lightly punched out and blocked the fatal blow once again. How is this possible? This time, it was impossible for people not to be shocked. One had to know that not many people in the late stage of the half-saint realm would dare to easily receive a blow from the 6 demons Venerable. If one encountered a warrior with a desolate body below the 5th grade, Even a peak half-saint would lose to the 6 demons venerable. Bang! 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 However, nothing was impossible for Lin Ling facing the 6 demons venerable's attacks. Lin Ling had blocked all of them. The 6 demons venerable even saw Lin Ling block his attacks with one hand behind his back. Is the 6 demons venerable going to be defeated? Many people exclaimed secretly. In fact, even the 6 demons venerable was secretly feeling uneasy. Oh no, what is this person's strength? Why can't I take him down even though my talent and cultivation level are higher than his? Most importantly, I have 70% of my cultivation level power. Lin Ling spoke at this moment. You have made so many moves previously. It should be my turn now. I will defeat you with one punch. Lin Ling retracted his left fist as though it was an arrow that was about to leave the bow. Not good. Although Lin Ling looked very ordinary and his realm essence was not turbulent, the 6 demons venerable did not dare to underestimate him. Suddenly, gray rocks appeared all over his body and he turned into an ancient divine mountain. Defeat him with one punch? That's impossible. Many people were shaking their heads, but they couldn't be sure because they had all witnessed Lin Ling's miraculous feats before. At the same time, Lin Ling also threw out a punch. However, it was like an arrow that was shot out from a bow. At the beginning, there was fire elemental boundary energy spreading out. However, when it got close to the gray rock, a terrifying thing finally happened. An incomparably ferocious aura erupted like a ferocious beast. This made Lin Ling's punch faster and more powerful. The combination of his physical strength and the 4 dantians formed a punch that could destroy 10,000 worlds. Boom! The gray rocks were shaken by the punch. Inside the rocks, the 6 demons venerable's expression changed drastically. He felt an unparalleled force colliding with his body. He could not resist at all. This was not the strength of a half-step saint, but the strength of a saint. Ka, 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 ka. Cracks began to appear on the gray rocks. Then, a figure flew out and smashed into the green hills in the distance, causing the hills to shake. Under the green hills, there was a dead silence. Everyone was dumbfounded. They never thought that Lin Ling, who was only a half-step saint, would win in such an easy way. He defeated the 6 demons venerable with only one arm. Even the eyes of the seniors of the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect flickered. Previously, Lin Ling had burst out with ferocious aura. Could it be that he had practiced a technique related to ferocious aura? Or, could it be that he was hiding some other talent that was related to ferocious aura? Most importantly, they did not understand why Lin Ling's punch was so powerful. Could it be the strength of his physical body? But during the assessment of the glaze ball, this guy only had the talent of fire element, right? Who else is not convinced? At this moment, under the green hills, Lin Ling glanced at the crowd and said indifferently. But no one spoke. Everyone was silent. The reason was that the 6 demons venerable was ranked among the top. Now that he had been defeated, it was meaningless for others to challenge him. Most importantly, Lin Ling had defeated the 6 demons venerable with only one arm. Perhaps his full strength was in that arm, or perhaps he did not use his full strength at all. Chapter 32-35. The Tai martial ancestor. Lin Ling did not use his full strength. Otherwise, the 6 Reaper honored master would not have been defeated so easily. Seeing that no one answered him, Lin Ling turned around and left. He glanced at the 6 Reaper honored master and said, I have said that you will not be able to withstand a single blow from me unless you reach the peak of the Sage to Be realm. The 6 Reaper honored master spat out a mouthful of blood and his eyes turned gray. He had been able to come to the flame state because of his strength. He had developed an arrogant character. Now, his arrogance had been suppressed by Sumo. Indeed, in the continent of miracles, miracles were born all the time. The Green Mountain was silent. Only Meng Lu and the rest smiled. They were not surprised by the outcome. In fact, if they had gone up against Sumo, they would have won too. However, they would not have won as easily and beautifully as Lin Ling. Is there anyone else who wants to challenge him? The old man asked. However, after the incident with Lin Ling, everyone was much more cautious and fell silent for a moment. This caused those who had been given good positions but were not powerful to look at Lin Ling gratefully. Since there is no one else, please follow me in. In the end, the old man led everyone into the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect. Wow, I did not expect you to be so powerful. Xianxia followed Lin Ling and looked at Lin Ling as if it was the first time she had met him. She looked at Lin Ling from head to toe. Lin Ling smiled and said, "I was just lucky." Lin Ling felt guilty for attacking Xianxia 3 times and knocking her out. If he had the chance, he would like to make it up to her. Hee, congratulations, congratulations. After entering the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect, Martial Uncle he walked over and led Lin Ling and the rest forward. They had been assigned to guard the West Mountain. This area was relatively remote, and there were many demonic beasts. Moreover, they were all the seeds of deities. Lin Ling and the other 2 followed Martial Uncle he to live on top of a mountain peak. There was an ancient stone sword stabbed into the mountain peak. This sword was extraordinary and could intimidate all the demonic beasts. As for guarding, there was nothing to guard. To put it bluntly, it was indeed a good job. This good job used to belong to your master. After he left, it was left to me. Since you are here, you can see where your master grew up. Martial Uncle he looked at Lin Ling and the rest and started introducing the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect. However, Lin Ling and the others were here to seek refuge. They did not plan to stay here for too long, so they quickly dealt with the situation. At night, Uncle Master he left. Lin Ling and the other 2 stayed in the small house at the top of the mountain. Looking at the moon in the sky, they realized that the Yen state seemed to be closer to the moon. Even the sky was filled with the aura of a god. What a clean sky! The miracle mainland, the godly mainland, is indeed extraordinary. Meng Lu and Sakura said. Lin Ling smiled and then took out the spring of life. Meng Lu and the rest also took out a large number of starstones. To Lin Ling's surprise, the amount of starstones Meng Lu and the rest had plundered was beyond his imagination. Equally. The 3 of them looked at each other and were all excited. Lin Ling asked for the most starstones, so he gave out more spring of life. After dividing the treasures, the 3 of them began to cultivate. Although they were safe now, no one could guarantee when the heavenly court would find them. Therefore, improving their strength was the most important thing. After Lin Ling entered the house, he immediately sat down cross-legged. Just as he was about to cultivate, he found that the moonlight shone through the window and a large number of words were written on the wall. Work hard. It was a very simple word, but it covered the entire room. Is this written by Master? Lin Ling's eyes flashed. Finally, he saw a line of words in the corner of the house. It turned out that Xianxia used to be a very ordinary person in the Grand Change Nebula sect. However, he made a great contribution during the demonic beast tide and was praised by his master. Then, he was specially trained. At that time, Xianxia went from an unknown existence to a meteoric rise. However, during an extremely important mission, Xianxia disappointed master. He was defeated and returned. Since then, he suffered a disastrous decline. In the end, he left the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect in disappointment. I didn't expect Master to have such a story in the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect. Lin Ling thought to himself. Suddenly, he was curious about the sect leader of the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect. Of course, he didn't think too much about it and quickly cultivated. The heart of the realm-devouring beast that he had obtained in the starry sky was now being refined by Lin Ling. The ferocious aura on his body became more intense. He could transform into the realm-devouring beast. His physical strength was also increasing crazily. In the end, it increased to the power of 800 worlds. His speed also reached the speed of 90 worlds. If he used the rain technique, he could reach the speed of 140 worlds. As for the talent of the realm-devouring beast, it had entered the 9th grade. Apparently, the talent of devouring its own kind was really terrifying. This made Lin Ling happy. Immediately, he started cultivating again. This time, he was refining the starstone, which was a material for forging supreme weapons. Lin Ling operated the Chaos Divine formula and forcibly refined it. He let this force flow into his bones. His dragon bone was also increasing crazily. His dragon dantian had also reached the 7th grade wild body. During this process, because of the nourishment of the 2 treasures, Lin Ling's cultivation had also entered the 6th stage of the half-saint realm. Moreover, the boundary essence of the 4 major dantians was extremely complete. Looking at Sakura and the others, their strength had also increased greatly. Moreover, the 3 of them had come here to lie low. Therefore, They rarely walked around the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect. This made many people feel strange. After all, who didn't come here to have a discussion with the martial ancestor? However, the people didn't pay much attention to them. Gradually, they forgot about Lin Ling and the other two. On the contrary, the higher-ups of the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect seemed to be looking for something. The glazed ball emitted 15 rays of light? A 5th-grade wild body? Nonsense. How can there be a 5th-grade wild body in this world? This kid has other talents. That's why he can shine so brightly. After an old man heard the news from the elders, he let out a laugh. The old man sat under an ancient tree. The fruits on the ancient tree shone like stars, making him look like a god descending. His eyebrows were very long, reaching the ground. He looked like an immortal. He was the Grand Simplicity martial ancestor. He was also the current sect leader of the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect. Moreover, there's something even more terrifying. The realm-devouring beast was actually killed. Another elder said. His tone was filled with shock. Amazing. It would be great if this kid was in our Grand Simplicity Nebula sect. However, there's no need for everyone to look for him. He will surface sooner or later. The old man's eyes lit up. He nodded his head in appreciation and said, "All of you can leave first." Everyone hurriedly bowed and took their leave. Chapter 32-36. Broken Bone Demon Elephant. Looks like Xianxia's disciple is only though. He was obviously very disappointed. Although he had taken in many disciples in his life, there were very few who could become his last disciple. In the past, Xianxia was lucky enough to catch his eye and become one of his last disciples. However, Xianxia failed in a major mission and declined from then on, leaving Grand Change Nebula sect. He felt very uncomfortable about this. He had never blamed Xianxia. As long as it was his last disciple, he would treat them with importance. Who knew that although he didn't care, Xianxia would feel inferior. This was also why Xianxia didn't dare to return to Yen State for so many years. Even if he was lucky enough to come back, it was in secret and he didn't dare to meet him. This inferiority complex seemed to have been passed on to his 3 disciples. On the path of martial arts, with such a personality, it would be difficult for them to go further. Therefore, he didn't pay much attention to Xianxia's 3 disciples. The days passed quietly just like that. Lin Ling and the other 2 were still cultivating in seclusion. It was quite relaxing. Of course, during this period, there were also people who came to provoke them. Because Lin Ling's stunning punch not long ago had actually made many 9 states youths unhappy. They had been cultivating hard in the sect and their strength had increased greatly. Therefore, they came to look for Lin Ling to get back at him. However, when Lin Ling and the other 2 were about to kick them out, someone stopped them first. The appearance of that person made those who wanted to provoke them leave with their tails between their legs. Then that person also left. This made Lin Ling and the other 2 curious. Who exactly was helping them secretly? Of course, they guessed that the person who helped them secretly was Xianxia. Regarding this, they didn't pay much attention. Because if they really wanted to provoke them, the unlucky ones would be those who overestimated themselves. After that, the days were still peaceful. Di Shitian and Meng Lu's strength had increased by leaps and bounds. They had reached the 8th stage of the half-sage realm. This was because of the spring of life and the treasures hidden in the West Mountain. In terms of combat strength, they could fight against a first stage of the sage realm. This was because Lin Ling had used the Starstone to reforge their weapons. As for Lin Ling, he had used up all his spring of life and only reached the 7th stage of the half-sage realm. This made him sigh. Because among the 3 of them, he had used up the most treasures, but his realm improvement was the slowest. At the end of the day, it was because he had 4 dantians. However, his physical strength and soul force had improved greatly. If he could reach the late half-saint realm, he would be able to open his 5th dantian. Lin Ling was looking forward to it. Rumble. On this day, the ancient forest of the West Mountains suddenly rumbled, shaking a large number of ancient trees. The aura's aura, as if it was a battle. Translators Shenzi's, Meng Lu, Mengs, and Meng Lu. What's happened? Someone is killing demonic beasts in the forest. How bold! Most of the demonic beasts in the forest are in the growth stage. They are also the seeds of the gods. Their strength is comparable to the sage realm. Even we don't dare to enter the forest. During this period of time, Lin Ling and Meng Lu had become familiar with the ancient forest. That was why they were surprised by the person's courage. Because even Martial Uncle he didn't dare to enter the ancient forest. Martial Uncle he rarely appears here. Second brother, what should we do now? Di Shirtian looked at Lin Ling and said, let's go and take a look. Lin Ling finally made up his mind. The three of them descended from the mountain peak and dashed into the ancient forest. The ancient forest was an existence that was comparable to the ancient forbidden forest. However, it was not as mysterious as the ancient forbidden forest. Therefore, the three of them were extremely cautious. Following the sound, a deafening sound came from the front. Roar! The sound was so terrifying that it made Lin Ling and the other two's blood boil. Their dantians became unstable, especially their bones, which emitted an indescribable pain. What is that sound? Di Shirtian sucked in a breath of cold air. They were considered people who had explored many miracles, but this was the first time they heard such a fierce sound. Quickly, sink your chi into your dantian and seal your ears with boundary essence. Only hear the sound within 100 meters. Lin Ling said solemnly. Di Shirtian and the other two hurriedly did as they were told. Only then did the sound's influence weaken. The three of them looked at each other and didn't dare to increase their speed. Instead, they moved forward cautiously. Not long later, strong winds filled the sky in front of them. Sand and stones flew everywhere. The ancient tree that was surrounded by several people was now tumbling in the sky like straw. A huge black ancient elephant appeared in front of them. This ancient elephant was incomparably ferocious. Its two tusks were like two shining blades. Moreover, the ancient elephant's body was covered with thick hair. When it moved its legs, it was as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. Second brother, what the hell is this? Di Shirtian was frightened by the ancient elephant's ferocious aura. Bone-shattering demonic elephant, and it's in the growth stage. Lin Ling's expression changed drastically. That huge black ancient elephant was the seed of gods. Master's uncle he once said that this bone-shattering demonic elephant was also a tyrant of the ancient forest. Bone-shattering, bone-shattering. No wonder its sound made our bones uncomfortable. Meng Lu's eyes were filled with solemnity. The seed of gods was a mature body. This was obviously not something they could fight against. One had to know that the realm-swallowing beast was also a seed of gods and one of the four most ferocious creatures in the universe. However, even if it was an immature body, it wasn't something that ordinary people could kill. Not to mention a mature body. There are people over there. Lin Ling's gaze also looked to the other side. He saw more than a dozen figures distributed around the ancient elephant. From time to time, they would attack the ancient elephant, causing it to roar. It turned out to be them. Are these guys crazy? Di Shirtian frowned and said. At the same time, he also noticed that this group of guys were only in the half-sage realm. They have many people and their methods are extraordinary. Although it's dangerous, they won't be swept away by the bone-shattering demonic elephant. Lin Ling activated his myriad elephant demon eyes and saw everything clearly. This bone-shattering demonic elephant's body is a treasure. Their goal should be to kill the demonic elephant. However, they don't seem to be from the Grand Change Nebula sect. Meng Lu said as he looked expectantly at Lin Ling. Lin Ling smiled. He knew what Meng Lu was thinking. He nodded and said, let's wait and see. Rumble. The warriors in front were indeed very strong. None of them had a desolate body lower than a 5th grade. Under their full strength, they caused the bone-shattering demonic elephant to roar angrily. It also suffered some injuries. Especially a thin youth. His methods were the most ruthless. Every time he attacked, large amounts of flesh and blood would be torn from the bone-shattering demonic elephant. However, the bone-shattering demonic elephant also began to stare at the youth. It took a step forward and pounced over. Wangu Wuji, be careful. The others shouted anxiously. At the same time, the bone-shattering demonic elephant's gigantic trunk swept out ruthlessly. If it was placed in the myriad worlds, it would probably be able to easily destroy the myriad worlds. And at this moment, the thin youth narrowed his eyes. His left eye began to emit a purple glow as a wisp of savage aura emanated out. The surrounding space quietly turned blood red. Chapter 32-37. Snatching the prey. Rumble. 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 Amidst the dust, Lin Ling could clearly see that the thin young man was fine. He was only slightly injured. After all, a fully grown bone-shattering devil elephant was capable of annihilating an initial-stage Saint Realm expert. He's a terrifying genius. Lin Ling couldn't help but be shocked. Wangu? Is he from the Wangu clan? That's the #1 clan in the Yen state. Meng Lu was also secretly impressed. He finally understood that there was always someone stronger. Rumble. Although the demonic elephant was injured, its demonic nature was even more violent as it pounced on the thin young man. The young man's expression changed slightly. He raised his evil eyes and stared at the huge monster in front of him. He was slightly injured and his realm essence was greatly consumed. He couldn't fight the demonic elephant head-on. Wangu Wuji, let us help you. Go! The others attacked one after another, but the bone-shattering demonic elephant ignored them and wanted to kill the young man. Moreover, everyone's attacks were only harassment and restraint. They couldn't do much. Roar! On the contrary, after the bone-shattering demonic elephant roared, everyone felt pain in their bones. Desolate God! Desolate God! At the same time, the young man let out a cold voice. The surroundings turned blood-red again. A huge claw descended and collided with the huge nose again. Without any suspense, the young man was sent flying again, and the bone-shattering demonic elephant was also heavily injured. This shocked Sakura and the others. What a powerful half-step saint! The young man was entangled by the demonic elephant, so he could only use all his strength. He was at the peak of the half-step saint realm, so he wasn't killed by the demonic elephant immediately. But it was only a matter of time. Finally, the bone-shattering demonic elephant appeared in front of him, and its 2 huge feet were raised high. Blood flowed from the corner of the young man's mouth. For a moment, he couldn't resist. Many exclamations came from all around. The others wanted to help, but they couldn't. But in a flash, arrows shot over. 4 arrows in a row. Clang, clang, clang. These arrows were extremely tricky. They actually hit the bone-shattering demonic elephant's left eye. At first, the first arrow didn't have much effect, but as the other 3 arrows arrived, they actually blinded the demonic elephant's left eye, causing blood to spurt out. Everyone was stunned. The young man named Wangu Wuji sucked in a breath of cold air. Roar! The demonic elephant's left eye was blinded. It became even more violent and began to wreak havoc. However, it could not find the culprit. Far away from the ancient forest, Lin Ling frowned. What a thick-skinned beast! He was the one who had shot the arrow earlier. He had already fired 4 arrows from the great sun calamity-destroying bow, and they were all aimed at the demonic elephant's weak points. However, he still couldn't kill the demonic elephant. One could imagine that if these arrows were shot at the demonic elephant, the effect would be even weaker. Ah! At this moment, the devil mammoth was even crazier. With a sweep of its huge trunk, many people around it died. The young man named Wangu Wuji had also recovered some of his strength. Suddenly, a claw descended and landed on the demonic elephant's nose. The demonic elephant's nose had already been injured, and now, the wound was torn open again, causing blood to spurt out. Of course, fighting the bone-shattering demonic elephant was a matter of killing 1,000 enemies, but suffering 800 casualties. Therefore, the young man was also swept by the demonic elephant's attack, causing him to spit out blood. Most importantly, in the next moment, the demonic elephant raised its legs high, wanting to trample the young man to death. However, at this moment, a huge white skeleton arrived. Moreover, the aura of the ancient gravekeeper race also arrived. Sakura and Meng Lu made their move. Both of them attacked the demonic elephant's wound crazily. The demonic elephant's blood continued to spurt out. After a furious roar, it finally gave up on the skinny young man and fled into the depths of the ancient forest. Sakura and Meng Lu wouldn't let their prey go. With a roar, they chased after it. Above everyone's heads, a figure flashed past at a terrifying speed. It was Lin Ling, and he was also chasing after the demonic elephant. In the ancient forest, all the people who had been there were stunned. Thinking back to the previous scene, they still felt their hearts tremble with fear. Wangu Wuji, someone is interfering with our prey. All of a sudden, a young man said coldly. His strength was only below Wangu Wuji's. The moment his words fell, everyone's faces turned cold. It's not that they are interfering with our prey. If it weren't for them, we would have been completely wiped out. However, Wangu Wuji also shook his head. If we hadn't been fighting with the bone-shattering demonic elephant for so long, they wouldn't have been able to deal with it with their strength. Therefore, they are taking advantage of us. That's right. Let's chase after it and take a look. The demonic elephant is at its weakest right now. Everyone looked at each other. Unwilling to let their prey be snatched away, they also chased after it. As for Wangu Wuji, he pondered for a moment before chasing after it. At this moment, the ancient forest was being overturned. A huge demonic elephant was running through it. Even though it was injured, its speed wasn't slow at all. Big brother, stop it. Meng Lu, attack its wound. Lin Ling's voice floated out from behind them. All right. Hearing that, the two of them gave it their all. Sakura appeared in front of the demonic elephant, attempting to block its path. On the other hand, Meng Lu continuously attacked the demonic elephant's wound, causing the ground to be dyed red with blood. With life and death approaching, the demonic elephant became even more frenzied, causing Sakura, who was at the front, to be in extreme danger. However, Sakura didn't retreat. He turned into a white bone giant with a long halberd in his hand, giving off an imposing aura. Roar! The demonic elephant's huge feet were raised high. If it stomped down, it would probably crush Sakura's bones. Rumble! However, Sakura also roared and waved his halberd. In mid-air, he blocked those two huge feet. Second brother, I can't block it anymore. At the same time, cracks began to appear on his white bones. Swoosh! Swoosh! In the blink of an eye, the 4 arrows finally arrived. With the protection of the heavenly dragon, the dragon god roared. With Sakura's obstruction, coupled with Meng Lu's harassment, this time, the bone-shattering demonic elephant had obviously missed Lin Ling. Those 4 arrows, without missing, all shot into the demonic elephant's right eye. The huge demonic elephant trembled and made a weak sound, finally collapsing like a mountain. Rumble! At this moment, the ancient forest seemed to be stirred up. The momentum was extremely terrifying. Success! Lin Ling's body finally appeared. He looked at Sakura and smiled. This demonic elephant was full of treasures. They had profited. Next, Lin Ling and the other two didn't immediately take away the prey. Instead, they sat on the huge demonic elephant and waited for the people to come. Because they knew that to take away the prey, it would take a certain amount of time, and the group of people from before definitely wouldn't give them this time. Therefore, Lin Ling and the rest waited for the other party to arrive. Not long after, the group of people finally arrived. When they saw the huge demonic elephant, their expressions changed drastically. In the end, their surprised gazes also fell on the 3 young men on the demonic elephant. The 3 young men were sitting extremely lazily and drinking wine. After noticing the arrival of the people, they narrowed their eyes and said indifferently, "You're finally here. We want 2/3 of this demonic elephant." Chapter 32-38. Compromise. 2/3? There are only 3 of you and so many of us, but you want the lion's share? Do you think we're fools? At most, we'll give you some elephant fur. We'll take the rest. The group of people was furious. Many of them had died, but they could only take 1/3? Elephant fur? Hearing that, Lin Ling and the other 2 looked at each other and laughed. The reason why they dared to stay here and talk about the price was because this group of people was already exhausted, especially the strongest young man. He had obviously suffered heavy injuries. If the 2 sides really fought, they would definitely be the ones at a disadvantage. 2/3 is the final condition. If you don't want it, then you won't get a single hair. Lin Ling's eyes revealed a domineering look. Although this group of people did put in a lot of effort to kill the bone-shattering demonic elephant, Lin Ling and the others had saved their lives. Could it be that the lives of this group of people could not be compared to a bone-shattering demonic elephant? Not to mention, the demonic elephant was killed by Lin Ling and the other 2. Boom! Just as Lin Ling finished speaking, the group of people exploded with powerful auras. Their strength was definitely at the king level of the half-saint realm. Since you don't want face, then we won't give you the elephant fur. One of the youths shouted angrily and took the lead to attack. The cultivation of a half-saint realm 8 and the 7th grade desolate body shocked everyone. Ha ha! Seeing that, Sakura drank a mouthful of wine and shot forward. In mid-air, He transformed into a giant white skeleton. The destructive aura was extremely terrifying. A long halberd was ruthlessly slashed over. Boom! The void suddenly exploded. The moment Sakura attacked, the sword in the opponent's hand was immediately shattered. That person's eyes widened. So strong? Although Sakura was a half-Saint Realm 8, they had a powerful background. Therefore, they did not take them seriously. This was also because they had defeated a half-Saint Realm first-grade desolate body. However, this confidence was instantly shattered by Sakura. The power of cultivation level, and the long halberd in his hand must be an extreme weapon. I'm afraid it has reached the 3rd grade. That person muttered to himself. The long halberd was pointed at him, making him not dare to act rashly. Impudent! Do you know who we are? Seeing this, the others were enraged. Mad Dragon Domain. A young man who was clearly not weak among the crowd roared and attacked. A large amount of silver scales appeared on his body, and his fist was like mercury flowing down the ground. The sky was filled with dazzling fist imprints, and their speed had reached 50 world speed. What a terrifying strength! This was because he had punched in the Yen state. If he had punched in a place like the Qing state, the entire divine prefecture would have been shaken. 70% berserker rank. The people around immediately cheered because the young man who had attacked had the Mad God bloodline, which was one of the 100 great bloodlines. He had already obtained the approval of the Mad God from the era of gods. As for the Mad God, the more he fought, the crazier he became. Even if he was facing someone with a higher cultivation base, he would still be able to beat them into submission with his stormy attacks. However, this time he met his nemesis. Dreamflow's white hair fluttered as he floated out like a ghost, forcefully resisting the young man's attack. When the young man's attack landed on Meng Lu, something terrifying happened. The sky changed, and the scene of the ancient tomb of the gods appeared. The young man seemed to have lost his soul, and he froze on the spot. No matter how arrogant he was, he couldn't move anymore. Everyone raised their heads to look at the sky, and they saw a man floating there. He held a ball of light in his hand, and it seemed to be the young man's soul. His soul has been seized. Not good. Someone sucked in a breath of cold air as he looked at Wangu Wuji, waiting for him to make a move. Wangu Wuji furrowed his brows as he condensed his world essence around his body. However, at this moment, a sword that seemed to belong to the era of gods arrived. Its speed had already reached 100 world speed. In the next instant, a sword hung by Wangu Wuji's neck. If you were at your peak, you would still have some qualifications to bargain. However, it seems like you can only accept it now. Blue. The person who appeared in front of Wangu Wuji was a young man in blue robes. He was only in the 7th level of the half-saint realm, and although his cultivation base was the lowest, his speed was terrifying. Even an early-stage true saint wouldn't be able to catch up to him. This shit. At the same time, everyone's expression changed drastically. These 3 people were each more ferocious than the other. What kind of background did they have? You're 3 cultivation realms lower than me, but your strength isn't any weaker than mine. How rare. Wangu Wuji raised his head and a cold smile appeared on his face. However, I don't like it when people threaten me with their swords. His eyes slowly turned purple. I don't like ungrateful people either. The young man in blue robes chuckled, and the cold light on his sword became even denser. All right, since you saved my life, we'll take 1/3 of the bone-shattering devil elephant. Wangu Wuji fell into deep thought for a moment before he finally compromised. The moment his words left his mouth, everyone gritted their teeth. This was especially true for the 2 people who were threatened by Sakura Heavenly Emperor. They roared, "Dream on! Don't tell me that you haven't embarrassed yourselves enough?" However, Wangu Wuji spoke up, and the 2 of them had no choice but to suppress their unwillingness in their hearts. "Sir, may I know your name? I've seen most of the half-saint realm experts in the Yen province, but it's rare to see people like the 3 of you." Wangu Wuji looked at Lin Ling indifferently. Lin Ling sheathed his sword and said, "Lin Ling. Sakura Heavenly Emperor. Meng Lu." Sakura Heavenly Emperor and the others spoke up as well. Wangu Wuji nodded his head and said, "If there's a chance, let's spar." "It's my honor. However, let's talk about it after you've recovered. Let's split the spoils of war." Lin Ling shrugged nonchalantly. Although his words seemed casual, Wangu Wuji knew that the young man in blue robes was still hiding his strength. Sir, we'll take 1/3 of the spoils. You can have the rest. All right. Both parties began to slice the bone-shattering devil elephant apart. It had to be said that the bone-shattering devil elephant was as huge as a mountain, and it was extremely troublesome to slice it apart. Even though it was dead, its fur was still extremely tough. After several hours, the bone-shattering devil elephant was finally sliced apart. Everyone began to collect their spoils of war. Lin Ling and the others did the same as well. Goodbye. Lin Ling and the other two took their leave. Wangu Wuji stared at the backs of the three of them as they left. Wangu Wuji, are we going to let them leave just like that? Many of our men have died. However, there were still some people who were unwilling to give up. If we were to fight, all of us would be annihilated. That's why it's best for us to shake hands and make peace. Furthermore, they only gave us face because of the Wangu clan. If we didn't have a powerful background, they would have attacked us directly. Furthermore, the three of them have great potential. If they reach the true saint realm, even the world of true saints would be shaken. Wangu Wuji said indifferently. His words caused the faces of those who were unwilling to give up to change as they stared in the direction that Lin Ling and the others had left. Chapter 32-39. Half-Saint Nebula Tournament. Wangu Wuji's guess was right. If they weren't from the Wangu clan, Lin Ling wouldn't have given them any face. That was because Lin Ling and the other two had already offended the Heavenly Court. If they offended the Wangu clan, there would be no place for them to stay in the Yen province. Thus, it was better to have one more friend than one more enemy. Of course, if their strength had increased, they wouldn't have such fear. But now they were still in the process of growth. Not long after, Lin Ling and the other two returned to the mountain peak and returned to their peaceful days. Moreover, with a treasure like the bone-shattering demonic elephant, they did not lack cultivation resources for the time being. Seed of the gods, the flesh and blood of this demonic elephant is probably not weak. Lin Ling began to refine the devil elephant's flesh and blood. He didn't even let go of the elephant's tusks. However, during this period of time, the strength of his physical body had increased too quickly, so after refining it, the effect was not good. Therefore, Lin Ling also temporarily stored the bone-shattering demonic elephant's flesh and blood, waiting for a period of time to refine it. He now had the blood of martial god Qilin and the flesh of the bone-shattering demon elephant. He did not lack cultivation resources in the short term. However, he lacked fire attribute cultivation resources. After all, the space-time divine steel was progressing at a snail's pace. This made him rather anxious. In the following days, Little Rain, Shadow Afterimage, and the others came. When Shadow Afterimage saw the progress of Lin Ling and the others, he couldn't help but be shocked. But when he thought of the miracle that Lin Ling had created, Doing gradually became numb. The few of them stayed at the foot of the mountain, and their days were extremely comfortable. However, 3 days later, Martial Uncle he returned with a piece of news. Lin Ling, Dream Flow, Sakura, 1 month later, there will be a Half-Saint Nebula tournament at the Grand Change Nebula Gate. I have already registered for you. Hearing this, Lin Ling and the other two opened their mouths wide. Master He was surprised. You don't want to participate? The way he saw it, Xing Shiyun had recommended Lin Ling and the others to come here for the sake of learning martial arts. How could he have known that Lin Ling and the others were here to avoid the limelight? They really had no interest in the competition. Lin Ling and the others even planned to leave the Great Change Nebula sect if their strength reached the Sage Realm. Well, our strength is too weak. We haven't even reached the peak of the Half-Sage Realm. So, we'll only be defeated if we participate. Lin Ling and Sakura looked at each other and laughed dryly. I know that too. Uncle Master he nodded and said seriously, although you are not as strong as others, you still need to broaden your horizons. Only by knowing the strength of your peers will you be motivated to become stronger. He was very clearly aware that even though Lin Ling's group of 3 had made obvious improvements, the youths of the 9 prefectures that came with Lin Ling's group had already attained the peak of the half-saint realm and were half a step into the ranks of saints. Therefore, it was understandable that Lin Ling and the others felt inferior. As long as you can enter the top 10, everyone will be able to obtain a grade crystal of various attributes. In order to encourage Lin Ling and the others to work harder, Senior Uncle he spoke again. Grade crystal? Lin Ling's eyes suddenly lit up. He had heard that this treasure could enhance one's strength and could also be used for cultivation. Most importantly, it had various attributes. He could ask the Great Change Nebula sect for a grade crystal of the fire element to enhance the talent of the space-time steel. What about the top 3? Sakra's curiosity was also aroused. The top 3 will be rewarded handsomely. You can meet Master. Speaking of the top 3, Senior Uncle he was a little excited. However, Lin Ling and the others rolled their eyes. Meet the martial ancestor of Tai? They were not interested at all. It would be better to reward them with treasures. Therefore they planned to enter the top 10. Have you all decided to participate? Well, follow me to register. Then, Lin Ling and the others followed Senior Uncle He and left West Mountain. They had been in the Great Change Nebula sect for so long, but this was the first time they had left West Mountain. After a while, they arrived at the ancient Great Change Nebula sect. This sect was built in the mountains. When they looked up, they saw that they were surrounded by green mountains. The environment was very good. Then, Senior Uncle He stopped in front of an ancient hall. After giving some instructions, he strode in. At this moment, people were entering the hall one after another. Some were led by seniors, while others entered in groups of 3 to 5. Obviously, they were here to register for the competition. Lin Ling even heard Senior Uncle He's voice coming from inside. Xianxia's disciples? That cowardly disciple? Well, since they are his disciples, let them participate. They will be exempted from the preliminary round. They only need to go through one challenge. If they pass, they will enter the elimination round and compete for the top 10. Thank you, senior brother. It was obvious that the senior in charge of registration did not think highly of Lin Ling and the others. Lin Ling and the others were unhappy about this. They did not like it when others mocked Xianxia as a cowardly disciple. It's you? While Lin Ling and the others were waiting, someone suddenly looked at Lin Ling and said, "This person was 6 Demons Honorable." This person was one of the few people that Lin Ling and the others knew in the Great Change Nebula sect. "Oh, it's you, the loser." Sakura suddenly laughed. Perhaps he had heard someone mocking Xianxia, so he was very unhappy at this moment. Therefore, he did not show any respect to Xianxia. 6 Demons Honorable. Who are these people? They look unfamiliar. The people beside 6 Demons Honorable frowned and looked at Lin Ling and the others. This was because Lin Ling and the others were fearless. Have you forgotten that they are the people who defeated me when I first entered the Great Change Nebula sect? 6 Demons Honorable said in a low voice. He had reached the 10th heaven of the Sage-to-Be realm, so his eyes were burning with fighting spirit. Obviously, he wanted to wash away the humiliation. It's them. I thought that they had left the Great Change Nebula sect. It turns out that they are still here. What are they doing in the Great Change Nebula sect? Are they here to live in seclusion? Why haven't I seen them in the past few days? The surrounding people also reacted and let out cries of surprise. Subsequently, they squinted their eyes. In the previous battle, Lin Ling's strength was considered to be above average among all of them. However, they felt that they had surpassed Lin Ling and the others. 6 Demons Honorable. Didn't you lose the previous time? Why don't we have another round? Someone suddenly suggested. 6 Demons Honorable wanted to fight, but he had some scruples. When he heard the suggestion, he immediately mustered up his courage. You are no match for me. If you want to die, you won't just be injured this time. I will trample you under my feet. Lin Ling knew what 6 Demons Honorable was thinking, so he said flatly. His words were blunt. This was because he really did not take 6 Demons Honorable seriously. Moreover, he did not have time to talk to him. Although he had come here to lie low, it did not mean that he was a pushover. Chapter 3240. Top 10. He wanted to take a step forward, but after meeting Lin Ling's gaze, he suddenly felt an irresistible feeling in his heart. Perhaps the blow that Lin Ling gave him last time was too great, causing him to still have inner demons. Step out. Why wouldn't you dare to take this step? Lin Ling looked at his footsteps and said indifferently. 6 Demons Venerable. I'll fight him for you. At this time, a young man walked out from the 6 Revered Lord's side. Apparently, he was also from the Divine Escort Mansion. However, it was obvious that he had a higher status than the 6 Revered Lord. Okay, Thank you, Brother Wenda. In the end, Six Demon Venerable did not dare to take that step. He wanted to use this young man's strength to see if Lin Ling had become stronger. I am Lin Wenda, at the peak of the half-step saint realm, with an 8th grade desolate body. Today, I would like to exchange pointers with you. Since my realm is higher than yours, I won't take advantage of you. I'll let you have 3 moves. The young man's aura was calm, and his words carried a hint of arrogance. He also wanted to seize glory for the godly escort mansion. You'll give me 3 moves? That's too little. How about I give you 10 moves? Lin Ling nodded and also walked out. However, his words caused the expressions of the surrounding people to change. Half-Saint 7th layer. 10 moves? Could it be that his strength had greatly increased during this period of time? However, no matter how much he improved, he shouldn't be a match for someone at the peak of the half-saint realm. 10 moves? On the other hand, Lin Ling was very angry. He was a godly bodyguard who was even stronger than the 6 evil venerable. But he still came out and wanted to use his strength to make Lin Ling regret. How arrogant. Let's see what he'll say when he loses. 6 Demon Venerable's face was also extremely ugly. 10 moves? Where does his confidence come from? Maybe he thinks he'll lose in the end, so he said that. Seeing that the two of them were finally going to fight, many people were not optimistic about Lin Ling. Since they had entered the Great Change Nebula sect, they had experienced many small battles. Therefore, they had a general understanding of each other's strength. Especially Lin Wenda. Supposedly, he's ranked in the top 20 amongst half-saints. Excuse me. At this moment, Lin Wenda had already made his move. An 8th grade desolate body descended. It was the Snow God bloodline, one of the 100 great bloodlines. It was as famous as the Ice God bloodline. The wind and snow fluttered, and the sky and earth were instantly frozen. Based on his aura, if this person appeared elsewhere, he would definitely be a godly existence. The first move is not bad. Lin Ling clasped his hands behind his back and looked over indifferently. In the wind and snow, he punched out. Boom! The snow continued to fall, and the hair and eyebrows of those who were weak were covered in snow. In a short period of time, the two of them had exchanged 3 blows. A moment later, a figure surged up as if he had appeared out of thin air. He staggered backwards, and every step he took caused the ground to tremble. Seeing this, everyone was shocked. Because the one who was forced to retreat was actually Lin Wenda. A blizzard immediately appeared under Lin Wenda's feet, locking onto his legs. Finally, this terrifying retreat came to a stop. His expression was extremely gloomy. How can this guy's boundary essence be so strong? My boundary essence at the peak of the Sage to Be realm can't even shake him. He let out a low voice. There is always someone better than you. Not everyone likes to participate in some show-off competition. Therefore, to make a decision without seeing the strength of others is a taboo for warriors. Lin Ling smiled and said indifferently. Previously, I only used 70% of my strength. Again. Lin Wenda's eyes flashed coldly, and he immediately made his move again. He did not believe that Lin Ling was so powerful. Moreover, with so many people watching, he could not lose completely. After all, his opponent was giving him a handicap. Great Snow World Destroying Palm. This time, he had used 60% of his cultivation level's power. The people in the distance immediately noticed that a cold intent entered their bodies and froze their boundary essence. One had to know that at their level of strength, ordinary ice and snow techniques could not affect them at all. There was even a warrior with fire talent who had flames on the surface of his body. He wanted to resist the ice and snow, but in the end, his flames were also frozen. This is the 4th move. Looking ahead, Lin Ling nodded slightly. Lin Wenda's talent was indeed not bad. This was because he had also noticed that there was divine energy entering his body and freezing everything. However, the realm-devouring beast had appeared in his body and swallowed all the ice and snow energy. Therefore, not only was he fine, but he had also made use of the ice and snow energy to raise his cultivation level slightly. Bang! Without looking at Lin Wenda, Lin Ling punched out again. Ka. Lin Wenda's move was broken again. After he retreated, he shook his head continuously. Impossible. He could clearly sense that Lin Ling was not affected by his ice and snow at all. This was far beyond his expectations. One had to know that his ice and snow energy could even freeze a first heaven sage. I don't believe it. Next, Lin Wenda's body turned snow white, and he shone brightly. He entered the ice and snow and unleashed a storm of attacks on Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling stood there like a pine tree. With one hand behind his back, he easily blocked the attacks with the other hand. His body was frozen from time to time. However, when he moved slightly, all the ice and snow disintegrated. This guy's defense is too terrifying. Can you tell what talent he has? Why can't I understand it at all? Could it be the strength of his physical body? But isn't he a fire talent? Everyone was dumbfounded. At this moment, they finally knew how terrifying Lin Ling was. He had lived in seclusion in the Grand Change Nebula sect and seemed to be stagnant. However, in reality, his strength was more than 90% of them. All right, 10 moves have passed. You can't defeat me. Let's end this. At the same time, Lin Ling's indifferent voice drifted out. He had said that he would give Suemo 10 moves. He had indeed given Suemo 10 moves. Most importantly, he had defeated 6 demons venerable not long ago with one hand behind his back. He had defeated 6 demons venerable with one hand behind his back. It was the same today. I've lost. The wind and snow began to stop. A dispirited figure walked out. Blood was dripping from the corner of his mouth. He looked at Lin Ling with eyes full of unwillingness. He was Lin Wenda. He was a rising star who had been groomed by the divine escort mansion. He was even more valued than 6 demons venerable. In the past, he had traveled all over the world and the 9 states. However, he had suffered a heavy blow at this moment. No wonder the divine escort mansion had told him to go to the Yen state if he wanted to become stronger. After entering the Great Change Nebula sect, I have sparred with many experts. I have been defeated, and I have won. However, this is the first time I have seen someone like you who is completely incomprehensible. I estimate that you can already enter the top 10. Lin Wenda said again. We will definitely enter the top 10. Chapter 32:41. The competition had begun. Lin Wenda sighed and walked towards the crowd. He stopped beside Six Spectre Venerable and looked deeply at him. I know you want to wash away your shame, but let me tell you, you don't have any more chances. Sometimes, when it's time to accept your fate, you have to accept it. Six Spectre Venerable's face turned pale and his heart became dispirited. What happened, Lin Ling? Someone dares to bully you? At this moment, the crowd was forcibly separated and a figure appeared. It was Xianxia. Obviously, he had also received the news that Lin Ling and the other 2 had come out from the Western Mountain. He thought that someone was going to harm Lin Ling. Xianxia, you don't have to worry. These 3 guys don't need your protection. I'm afraid their strength can enter the top 10. Someone immediately said, causing Xianxia to suck in a breath of cold air. When he first met Lin Ling and the others in the Divine Dreamland, he thought that Lin Ling and the others were just passers-by. They were just like-minded people, so he treated them as friends. Who would have thought that the passers-by of the past would be so strong today? Lin Ling looked at Xianxia and felt warmth in his heart. He immediately nodded. Amazing, amazing. I think the 3 of you must have had a fortuitous encounter. Xianxia was undoubtedly happy for Lin Ling. He didn't know that when Lin Ling had just entered the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect, Lin Ling was already stronger than him. The only people who could make Lin Ling fear were the Sage Realm powerhouses of the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect. Lin Ling. At this time, Martial Uncle he also rushed over. He also thought that something had happened. It's nothing. Before Lin Ling could speak, Xiaoyu smiled and said, Martial Uncle he was stunned. He then looked at the crowd seriously and said, in the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect, the strong cannot bully the weak. This is a principle. If I find out that you dare bully them, don't blame me for being impolite. Although he was only a small elder in the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect, he had no problem intimidating these people. Hearing this, everyone smiled bitterly. With Lin Ling's strength, who could bully him? Let's go, I've already signed you up. After which, Martial Uncle he left with Lin Ling and the rest to prepare for the competition. And to martial artists, a month's time was merely the blink of an eye. Therefore, Lin Ling did not cultivate much this month. Firstly, it would be difficult for him to make any progress in the short term. Secondly, He didn't have any opponents he was afraid of in this competition. On the other hand, Lin Ling had used the space-time divine steel to secretly return to Qing province to visit his grandfather and the others. It had to be said that the space-time divine steel had yet to unleash its full power, but its teleportation ability was truly terrifying. From the third princess, Lin Ling learned that the Heavenly Court's people were still hiding in Qing province, waiting for Lin Ling's return. Moreover, the spirit state was the same. This made Lin Ling feel that something was amiss. He realized that the power of the new Heavenly Court was growing stronger and stronger. Of course, with Wentian Martial God's power, he indeed had the power to rally supporters. After killing Martial God Qilin, Wentian Martial God has resurfaced again. The flames of revenge in Lin Ling's heart burned even more vigorously. Then, he suppressed those thoughts and asked Xianxia Yun about it. Master, it seems that many people in the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect look down on you. This. After being pointed out by Lin Ling, Xianxia Yun was undoubtedly extremely embarrassed. In the end, he could only say, "Those people are just jealous of me." Hearing this, Lin Ling chuckled. Sakura and the rest also chuckled. This was because they had roughly guessed that Xianxia Yun had disappointed the Grand Simplicity Patriarch, causing him to feel extremely inferior and finally escape from Yen province. Master, if there's a chance, I'll clear your name. Looking at Xianxia Yun, who kept laughing dryly, Lin Ling secretly swore. He knew that this would be the pain of Xianxia Yun's life. The competition was getting closer and closer. At this moment, in the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect, under the ancient star tree, an old man sat cross-legged. His eyebrows touched the ground as if he had merged with the ancient tree. Master, tomorrow is the day of the competition. At this moment, a few figures approached the ancient tree and bowed slightly. Hearing this, the old man opened his eyes. Starlight bloomed in his eyes, and a smile appeared on his face. The purpose of this competition is to find that person. I hope that person will reveal his secret when facing an attack from his peers. Definitely. Those who enter the top 3 will be able to meet Master. They might even be accepted as Master's last disciple. Therefore, that person will definitely do his best to show off. Those people laughed one after another. The purpose of this competition was obviously to find that mysterious junior. This was because the realm-swallowing beast had been destroyed in the glaze ball assessment. This made the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect very curious about that junior. Originally, they thought that even if that junior hid, the truth would come out sooner or later. However, that junior was really good at hiding. Until now, no one knew who that junior was. He can really keep his composure. I'm getting more and more interested in him. The old man looked at the tree behind him and muttered to himself. Time passed quietly and the competition arrived as scheduled. On this day, all the sage-to-be and sage realms of the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect gathered. Everyone wanted to see how much the strength of these rising stars had improved in this short period of time. Early in the morning, Lin Ling and the others arrived and saw a few familiar faces. Zilong, the former #1 sage-to-be in the Yen state. Yiling Tian, the former #1 sage-to-be in the Yu state. Yu Ru, the successor of Miao Xin's true teachings. Lin Ling saw that their strength had greatly improved. They were only one step away from the sage realm. To cross the sage-to-be realm, one must go through the sage's tribulation. Some of them have already broken through, but they don't have the confidence to cross the sage's tribulation. Therefore, they remain at the peak of the sage-to-be realm. Second brother, is the sage's tribulation very difficult? It's very difficult. In the sage-to-be realm, except for the sage-to-be realm from the early stage to the middle stage and from the late stage to the middle stage, the rest of the sage's tribulation is very easy. However, the sage's tribulation is several times more difficult than the sage-to-be realm. If you can't cross it, you'll definitely turn into ashes. But why are there so many sage-to-be realm cultivators? It depends on the talent. The stronger the talent, the stronger the sage's tribulation. Therefore, when you reach the peak of the sage-to-be realm, you must be fully prepared before you break through. Lin Ling kept talking to Sakura and the others. He stared at Zilong and the others and asked curiously, with the talent of these guys, there should be many forces in the Yen state that want to recruit them. But why did they come to the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect? Perhaps, for some inheritance. Although there are many sects in the Yen state that are bigger than the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect, in terms of age, the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect is older. Meng Lu said thoughtfully. Lin Ling nodded. While they were talking, the competition had already begun. The contestants had already passed the preliminary round and were preparing for the knockout round. Lin Ling and the others joined later. Although they did not need to go through the preliminary round, they still needed to go through a challenge. Therefore, not long after, Lin Ling and the others' names were called. Chapter 3242. Translator. Nyoibo Studio he easily passed. As soon as the name came out, the eyes of the seniors of the Grand Change Nebula sect lit up. I heard he's a disciple of Xing Shiyun. Some of the seniors who were jealous of Xing Shiyun in the past were now gloating over his misfortune. In the past, Xing Shiyun had failed his mission and was too ashamed to face the Grand Simplicity Patriarch. Hence, he escaped from the Grand Simplicity Nebula sect. This made them think that Xing Shiyun's disciples were similar to him. They were all cowardly bandits. 8th stage half-saint? Their strength isn't very strong. I think that there should be many people who want to challenge them and snatch their spots. That's for sure. Those seniors were all laughing and chatting. Who's coming? On the martial stage, Sakura looked around and waved his hand faintly. That martial uncle, he was incomparably nervous, deeply afraid that Sakura would be eliminated. However, the surroundings were completely silent. Finally, after the time it takes for 3 incense sticks to burn, Sakura got impatient and successfully entered the knockout round. At this moment, the seniors of the Great Change Nebula sect were confused. What was going on? Dream Stream. Next, it was Dreamflow's turn. However, the surroundings were still silent. The faces of those young geniuses were gloomy. They had long heard of the battle a month ago, so they didn't dare to provoke Lin Ling's group. Everyone's silence had undoubtedly left all the seniors dumbfounded. Perhaps because the first person's cultivation was too low, the others didn't want to bully him, so he was lucky enough to pass. But no one challenged the second person? Trash. However, what surprised all the seniors was that Meng Lu didn't even bother to speak. This time, someone must have gone up. A senior said with great certainty. After being mocked as trash, anyone with a backbone would probably go up and teach Xing Shiyun's disciple a lesson. However, there was still nothing. Even Uncle Master He's mouth was agape. Even though he was very familiar with Lin Ling and the others, Lin Ling and the others rarely fought in the sect, so he was utterly unaware of the strength of Lin Ling and the others. Next, Lin Ling. It was finally Lin Ling's turn. Half-Saint 7th layer? That's a very low cultivation level. There should be someone this time. Many seniors widened their eyes and waited for the outcome. They didn't believe that all 3 Xing Shiyun's disciples could enter the knockout round. Who's coming? I'll fight you with one hand. On the martial stage, Lin said indifferently. Unfortunately, the surroundings was still silent. You don't? Then I'll fight you with 2 hands. Lin Studio Lin Li said. Although he didn't, he's Shiyun. He was Shiyun Shen Studio Shiyun. Who's fighting? Who's Shiyun Studio is Studio? Who's Shiyun Studio NN Studio? Martial Sect Studio? Sect Studio among the senior studio. On the other hand, Uncle He's heart was pounding violently. He did not expect Lin Ling to be so arrogant. If he was defeated, it would be troublesome. Senior brother Xing already did not have a good reputation in the sect. If his disciple also lost face, his reputation would fall to the bottom of the valley. However, Sect Nexuan Sect Yunxiu Studio, the Jojo geniuses were whispering among themselves. Only a fool would go up. That guy has defeated Lin Wenda. He's bound to enter the top 10. Isn't he looking for trouble? Obviously, everyone had witnessed the battle a month ago. At that time, Lin Ling had generously allowed Lin Wenda 10 moves and defeated him with one hand. If such a fierce person were to go all out, his strength would be unimaginable. Therefore, other than those who had entered the knockout round, ordinary people could only look up to the 3 of them. Under the astonishment of the sect elders, Lin Ling and the other 2 had successfully passed the round and started to compete for the top 10 positions. What's going on? Even Zilong, Yiling Tian, and Yu Ru, the top half-sage realm cultivators, frowned. Obviously, they weren't clear about the battle a month ago. The 3 of them defeated Lin Wenda. However, at this moment, Xia Tianyi laughed from the side. Without a doubt, Zilong and the others' expressions changed. Although Lin Wenda's strength wasn't as strong as theirs, he wasn't weak either. If they could defeat him, it meant that they could enter the top 10. Interesting. Those who can enter the top 10 are either at the peak of the half-sage realm or at the 10th heaven of the half-sage realm. The three of them actually defeated their opponents. This means that they're really strong. However, I'm the king below the half-sage realm. Therefore, they're still my subordinates. While Zilong and the others were surprised, an arrogant voice suddenly came from the side. Such a voice would usually attract hostility from them. However, when they saw the person who spoke, Zilong and the others fell silent. That was because this person was called Zhou Yunfei. He joined the sect Nexuan sect later. It was said that he was one of the Flame Emperor's men. His strength was extremely terrifying. He had once defeated thousands of half-sage realm cultivators at the same time. This matter had once caused an uproar in the Yen state. There were also rumors that even the former #1 half-sage realm cultivator in the Yen state, Sanzi, would be defeated by this person. This was because he was an invincible half-sage realm cultivator. Of course, as the current #1 half-sage realm cultivator in the Yen state, Zilong naturally wasn't convinced. However, in the sect Nexuan sect, he had been severely defeated by this person several times. He finally knew that unless he stepped into the sage realm, he wouldn't be a match for him. I know that you're very strong. However, there's always someone better than you. At this moment, Xianxia said faintly. Oh, you're not convinced? Zhou Yunfei looked at Xianxia with a smile. Ancient flames appeared in his eyes. With just a glance, Xianxia felt immense pressure. It was said that Zhou Yunfei had a 10th grade desolate body. He was even half a step into the ultimate desolate body. This was the fiery demon divine body, a powerful talent that combined flames and flesh into one. Xianxia couldn't win against such a talent. Junior sister Yuru. What do you think? Seeing that Xianxia didn't speak, Zhou Yunfei looked at the girl beside him and smiled. Senior brother Zhou, you're really strong. Yuru replied faintly. She looked a little cold. Seeing this, Zhou Yunfei smiled. However, he thought to himself, one of the true disciples of Miao Shen. I'll get my hands on such a beauty sooner or later. His smile was well hidden, but it was still caught by Zilong and the others. They also knew that Zhou Yunfei was pursuing Yuru. However, Yuru didn't seem to be interested in Zhou Yunfei. In fact, they were also attracted to a beauty like Yuru. Firstly, she was a true disciple of Miao Shen and had the backing of a powerful boundary god. Secondly, Yuru was a powerful boundary master. It was said that she was only slightly weaker than Yeshua. Therefore, if they could win her heart, it would mean that they had a virtuous wife who could help them forge weapons and set up ancient arrays. Chapter 32-43. Lin Ling entered the battle. Even on the distant Green Mountain, some divine cranes, unicorns, and other divine beings were watching the competition at this moment. Regardless of whether these divine beasts could understand it or not, if they could absorb some fur, it would be of great help to them. This was because even though the matches in the tournament were merely a clash of fists and kicks, every punch and kick contained the secrets of the universe's chaos. And during this process, Lin Ling and the other two also appeared one after another. Everyone was looking forward to it. However, the result was that all the opponents that appeared were defeated by Lin Ling and the others in a clean and efficient manner. In the end, when the contestant saw Lin Ling and the other two, he immediately admitted defeat. This result undoubtedly shocked the seniors of the Great Change Nebula sect. Never in their wildest dreams did they expect Xing Shiyun's disciples to be so strong. Even Master's junior master, he was shocked. Then he burst out laughing. As for Lin Ling and the other two, they smoothly entered the top 10. These 10 people also became the focus of attention, and began to compete for the top 3. These 10 people are the same as us. They all come from various places in the 9 provinces and are all proud sons of heaven. However, the gap between them and us is too big. I heard that the top 3 can meet the Tai martial ancestor. I wonder who will be in the top 3. Everyone's emotions surged, and they were incomparably excited. Even those 10 people were the same. If there was an exception, it would naturally be Lin Ling's group of 3. Because their goal was to enter the top 10, and now they had accomplished their goal. However, Master's junior uncle, he was extremely excited. He hoped that Lin Ling and the other two could enter the top 3 and finally meet Master. At that time, Master would definitely remember Xianxia.
As for the top 3, they would be able to challenge each other on their own, and only the top 5 would be able to choose the corresponding level crystal.
This news made Lin Ling surprised. He hurriedly looked at Sakura and the others, but they shrugged indifferently. Second brother, we only need the rank crystal. As for the attributes, that's not a big problem. Yes, and even if I want the corresponding attributes, I'm afraid the Grand Change Nebula sect doesn't have it. Sakura and Meng Lu spoke at the same time. Their talents were related to the underworld, so the rank crystal was naturally rare. In fact, if Lin Ling wanted the rank crystals of other attributes, the Grand Change Nebula sect might not have it. For example, rank crystal that was related to the Dragon Clan. Fortunately, he only needed fire elemental crystals. It should not be difficult for the Grand Change Nebula sect to find such crystals. Then, I'll compete for the top 5. Lin Ling nodded his head and looked at the martial arts stage. The battle on the stage was the battle. Rank is that's the Star Realm Martial sect is Martial's Heaven Dragon editor. Is a stage Nebulb is Martial. This young man was extremely mysterious. His face was dark and his eyes were cold. If he had not defeated Xia Tianyi, no one would have noticed him. Is Xia Tianyi said dispiritedly after she left. Even Sakura and the others were a little surprised. They hurriedly looked at Lin Ling and asked.
Lin Ling stared at the young man indifferently and then nodded. This person is an assassin from the Flying Dragon organization. Hearing this, Sakura and the others finally understood. No wonder Xia Tianyi couldn't restrain the young man's aura. It turned out that the cold aura was murderous aura. Murderous aura seemed similar to the ghost demon Dao, but in fact, it belonged to 2 different martial arts. Next battle, Iyuru. Soon, it was the turn of the next battle. When Iyuru went on the stage, the whole audience was in an uproar. Iyuru's strength was indeed tyrannical. With a wave of her hand, she set up a spirit barrier and defeated her opponent easily. This also made the atmosphere of the Grand Change Nebula sect reach its peak. Although everyone knew that Iyuru's strength was not weak, they didn't expect her to be so strong. Good spirit barrier Dao. Iyuru. You should have set up a spirit barrier around your body. When you meet an opponent, you set up the spirit barrier with a wave of your hand. It seems that among all the half-step saints, you are the best in terms of spirit barrier. Some elders of the Grand Change Nebula sect praised her. Iyuru revealed a faint smile and shook her head. Among the half-step saints of the Grand Change Nebula sect, except for those seniors, there is one person of the same age who is not inferior to me in terms of spirit barrier Dao. In front of him, I am just showing off my slight skill before an expert. As soon as these words came out, everyone's face changed. Iyuru came from the true inheritance of Miao Shen. In terms of spirit barrier Dao, if she claimed to be the second, who would dare to claim to be the first? But now, she said that there was someone of the same age who was more powerful than her. What? Zhua Yunfei, who had been closing his eyes, finally opened his eyes and stared at Iyuru. He found that this beauty didn't seem to be joking. Instead, there was a clear light of admiration in her eyes. Who is it? Zhua Yunfei felt extremely uncomfortable. His eyes were also searching among the crowd. In fact, the others were also doing the same, but in the end, there was no result. On the contrary, Iyuru quietly glanced at Lin Ling. After a faint smile, she left the martial stage. Others didn't notice this glance, but Lin Ling and the other 2 saw it. She recognized us? Di Shitian frowned. It should be Yeshua who told her. Lin Ling pondered for a moment and smiled faintly. He didn't care because as long as it was Yeshua's people, it was also one of them. Following that, the competition continued. It was Yilingtian's turn to fight. This person's strength was recognized as strong, so he easily defeated his opponent. It was the same for Zilong. If there were no accidents, these 2 would definitely enter the top 3. After they fought, it was Lin Ling's turn soon. Lin Ling wanted to enter the top 5, so he had to fight in this battle no matter what. When he walked out, the entire Grand Change Nebula sect was silent because Lin Ling could be considered as an expert who came out of nowhere. Although his strength was not as strong as the top 3, he couldn't be underestimated. Since he can defeat Lin Wenda, his strength must be in the top 10. But the top 10 aren't weak.
Will he move forward or be at the bottom? Many people were curious. As for Lin Ling, he chose his opponent at will. His gaze swept across the 9 people. Di Shitian and Meng Lu didn't need to fight. To enter the top 5, they only needed to challenge one of the strongest 5. Finally, Lin Ling's gaze fell on Zilong and Yiling Tian. Seeing this, people's hearts immediately felt as if they were struck by lightning. Could it be that Lin Ling wanted to challenge the second and third strongest? Zilong and Yiling Tian had mysterious smiles on their faces. Yiling Tian's smile was a kind of anticipation, while Zilong's was a kind of disdain. But soon, Lin Ling's gaze passed over them. Chapter 32-44. Defeated in one move. After all, as the son of the devil, he was famous for many of his skills, such as the calamity-annihilating Sun Bao. If he used it, with so many people watching, he couldn't guarantee that no one would recognize him. Me. At this moment, Zui Yunfei's long hair fluttered in the wind. He noticed that Lin Ling was looking at him. This made him want to laugh. A mere 7th-layer half-sage dares to challenge him? This was courting death. Therefore, he believed that this guy called Lin Ling wouldn't court death. However, this was indeed the case. I choose you. Lin Ling finally spoke. His opponent was the cold-faced youth who had defeated Xia Tianyi. It's him. Everyone's gaze landed on the young man, and their eyes were filled with surprise. Because the cold and indifferent young man's strength wasn't weak, and he was already ranked at the 4th position. According to common sense, Lin Ling should start from the weakest to the strongest, and not attempt to reach the top 5 in a single bound. Interesting. The cold young man smiled for the first time. He floated over from the front like a ghost. Most importantly, his speed was extremely fast, almost comparable to the purple dragon's. The surroundings of the square were in an uproar when they saw this scene. Who do you think is more powerful, that mysterious young man or Lin Ling? In the previous battle between the mysterious youth and Xia Tianyi, he seemed to have used his full strength. So far, Lin Ling has defeated his opponents with one hand. I think Lin Ling is stronger. That might not be the case. A series of discussions could be heard among the crowd. Even Zilong and the others were evaluating the situation. In the end, they came to a conclusion that Lin Ling had a 60% chance of winning. Of course, the process would be very difficult, and he would win by luck. At this moment, the mysterious young man looked at Lin Ling indifferently and said in a cold voice, I estimate that your strength is about the same as Xia Tianyi's. Even he lost to me. I don't understand why you chose me. Because it's simpler. Lin Ling smiled and replied indifferently. His words caused the mysterious young man's pupils to constrict. Xia Tianyi, who was at the edge of the martial arts platform, opened her mouth wide. Simple? That mysterious youth wasn't simple at all. No matter if it was in terms of natural talent or cultivation base, he was a top figure in the half-saint realm. Especially the 9th grade desolate body. It was extremely mystical. To this day, no one knew what kind of desolate body it was. Very well, I will let you know that Jane is not simple. The mysterious young man didn't say much. After nodding his head, he also attacked. The shadow quietly spread out. The sky and the earth seemed to be dyed with ink. The most frightening thing was that these shadows could isolate everything, making it impossible for people to see through them. Yojine's bloodline. At the same time, the seniors of the Grand Change Nebula sect shouted in a low voice. This was also one of the 100 great bloodlines, and it was an extremely mysterious bloodline talent. The shadow shrouded Lin Ling, causing Lin Ling to nod slightly. This mysterious youth was indeed somewhat powerful. He was sure that if this young man was placed in the 9 prefectures, he would definitely be an emperor amongst half-saints. In the Grand Change Nebula sect, he was indeed ranked 4th. Unfortunately, he met Lin Ling. The reason why Lin Ling chose him as his opponent was because the mysterious young man's techniques were similar to Do afterimages. In fact, he was not as powerful as Do afterimages. Lin Ling was extremely familiar with Do afterimages techniques. Therefore, he didn't need to use his full strength. The shadow began to disperse, and everything returned to normal. However, it seemed to have formed some kind of domain. This was a domain of an assassin. The quieter it was, the more dangerous it was. This also allowed people to see the scene on the martial arts platform clearly. However, the mysterious young man had disappeared. Only Lin Ling was standing there. Almost at the same time, a cold light finally appeared. It seemed to have come from the void and slashed towards Lin Ling. Although the cold light didn't seem powerful, it was a fatal blow from an assassin. At this moment, the seniors of the Grand Change Nebula sect stood up. Their expressions changed drastically. What a ruthless blow! Martial uncle, he shouted anxiously, warning Lin Ling to be careful. However, Lin Ling, who was in the domain, didn't seem to hear anything from the outside. On the contrary, he slowly stretched out his fist and placed his other hand behind his back. Oh my God, he's not going to use another punch, is he? His appearance undoubtedly made people's expressions extremely interesting. After all, Lin Ling only had a 50% chance of defeating the mysterious young man. But now, Lin Ling was underestimating his opponent so much. Could it be that after he came out of nowhere, all the opponents he met were too weak, causing him to be arrogant and complacent? An arrogant soldier is bound to be defeated. Defeat him. Many people were unhappy with Lin Ling. With one hand behind his back, he was using only one hand to fight against his opponent. Such arrogance naturally made them feel uncomfortable. The mysterious young man snorted in his heart, "You're so arrogant. I'll make you fail miserably." In fact, he wasn't very confident in fighting against Lin Ling. The reason was that he still didn't know what Lin Ling's techniques were. But now, he felt that Lin Ling was going to lose without a doubt. Almost at the same time, the cold light finally reached Lin Ling's back. The light flashed and was about to slash Lin Ling's back. However, Lin Ling seemed to have eyes behind his back. He waved his left hand lightly and casually. Smack! The fatal blow was caught by the mysterious young man's arm. It was like hitting a snake at its weakest point. The mysterious young man couldn't exert any strength at all. You've lost. At the same time, Lin Ling said with a smile. He waved his left hand and swatted the young man's arm away from the dagger. Then, he threw a light punch. Boom! The punch seemed calm, but when it landed on the mysterious young man, he immediately felt a surge of power. The power was comparable to the Sage stage. Whoosh! He spat out blood and flew backward, crashing onto the ground. Everyone was shocked. Without martial arts, without using the power of cultivation level, and without using his talent, Lin Ling won easily. And it was only one move. Most importantly, it was only one hand. How is this possible? The young man sat on the ground and kept recalling the previous scene. His mind was confused. He could only be sure that Lin Ling could see through his means and that his attack was very powerful. He won, he won. In the crowd, Uncle Master, he was stunned. His eyes were wet. At this moment, he wished he could find Xianxia Yun and tell him that his disciple had won and entered the top 4. Lin Ling won, haha. Then, he looked at Sakura and the rest excitedly. He thought that Sakura and the rest would be very excited too. In the end, the two of them were drinking and talking about other topics. When they talked about the key points, they laughed loudly. They didn't even look at the martial stage. Uncle Master, he was speechless. Were these two guys worried about Lin Ling? You guys are still drinking? Stop drinking. Look, Lin Ling won. Uncle Master, he hurriedly said to the two of them excitedly. It's just a win. What's the big deal? Sakura and the others subconsciously said. Their words made martial uncle he flabbergasted. However, after Sakura and the others reacted quickly, their faces became incomparably excited. They looked up to the sky and laughed. However, this kind of excitement gave martial uncle he a feeling that it was fake. Chapter 32:45. He was ranked 4th. Physical strength? At this moment, among the higher-ups of the Great Change Nebula sect, an old man muttered to himself. He defeated his opponent with a single punch without using his talent. He didn't even use his boundary essence. This should be the strength of his physical body. Do you guys think that this young man will be the one taking the test? Master, I don't think so. Although the physical strength displayed by the youth so far is very curious, that mysterious person was able to defeat the realm-swallowing beast. Therefore, I don't think it's him. It should be Zhou Yunfei, who is ranked 1st. There was a group of people in front of the old man, but at this moment, a man in his 30s laughed. Your analysis is right. The old man looked at him with admiration and nodded in satisfaction. In fact, he already had an answer in his heart. He was just testing these people. These people were all his closed-door disciples, and among them,
That man was the one he valued the most.
Next, let's seize Wei Yunfei's strength. The man was still smiling. He was slightly older than Lin Ling, but he had already reached the Saint Realm.
From the perspective of talent, this person was indeed extraordinary.
That was because he possessed the ultimate desolate body. After Lin Ling entered the top 4, it was Wei Yunfei's turn to fight very quickly. Without a doubt, the Grand Change Nebula sect was shaken. Because Wei Yunfei's strength has already been recognized, everyone knows how powerful he is. Zhua Yunfei was also extremely domineering, directly declaring war on Zilong and Yiling Tian. This action shocked everyone once again. He's worthy of being able to defeat 1,000 experts at the initial stage of the half-saint stage. Zilong and the others had already lost to Zhua Yunfei. They knew that they were no match for Zhua Yunfei, so they decided to join forces. Moreover, they were quite angry in their hearts. They planned to join hands and humiliate Zhua Yunfei greatly, who asked him to be so domineering and arrogant. However, the result was that the two of them were not Zhua Yunfei's match even after joining forces. Zhua Yunfei was someone who could break through to the half-step sage realm at any time. His talent was already half a step into the ultimate desolate body. He possessed a powerful flame energy and his physical strength. In the end, he even unleashed the bloodline of the Dragon Clan. The Grand Change Nebula sect was in an uproar. After the famous Longyang and Yu of the 9 regions, this was another person who was in human form but possessed the bloodline of the Dragon Clan. Without a doubt, after using his trump card, Zhua Yunfei won easily. Furthermore, his eyes were filled with arrogance as he looked at Yu calmly. It was as if he was saying that both of them had the aura of the Dragon Clan and were a match made in heaven. Unfortunately, Yu did not pay attention to his gaze. She was only surprised by Zhua Yunfei's dragon aura. That was because Zhua Yunfei had hidden himself too deeply. Even she had not sensed it. In fact, even Lin Ling didn't notice it. Indra and Meng Lu's expressions had even changed violently as they gazed at Lin Ling. Obviously, they were extremely surprised as well. Second brother, is his dragon bloodline stronger or is yours? Sakura couldn't help but ask curiously.
Of course it's mine.
Lin Ling smiled and nodded.
Not only did he possess the dragon bone, but the dragon bone had also undergone a great deal of tempering.
It contained the nether dragon-associated fluid and the 4 ferocious world-devouring beasts. To him, Zhua Yunfei was just a small dragon. Hearing that, Indra and the others finally relaxed. After Zhua Yunfei won, his expression and gaze were as if he was looking down on the world. It was as if all the half-sage realm experts were his subordinates. He had also become the well-deserved number 1. Now that the number 1 position had been determined, all that was left was the competition for the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place. Unfortunately, no one dared to challenge the top 5. Instead, the top 5 were competing for the ranking. Soon it would be Lin Ling's turn. Everyone was looking forward to it. They did not know if Lin Ling would be able to surpass another rank. After all, up until now, Lin Ling was the only one who had not used his full strength. I forfeit. Unfortunately, just as everyone was looking forward to it, Lin Ling spoke with a smile. His words were like a bucket of cold water that extinguished everyone's enthusiasm. Among them, Masters Jr. he was the most affected. Because he wanted Lin Ling to enter the top 3 and be favored by Master. Then, he would help Xianxia Yun to wash away the infamy of being a coward. Don't you want to persuade him? Masters Jr. he could not help but ask Indra and the others. Why should we persuade him? Lin Ling thinks that he is no match for him, so he forfeited. If he continues to fight, he will only lose face. But, shouldn't martial artists face difficulties head-on? If he forfeits, others will think of him as a coward. What's the point? Masters Jr. he continued to persuade them. However, Indra and the others did not seem to care at all. This was because they knew that Lin Ling could defeat thousands of troops. However, there was no point in continuing the fight. As for being favored by martial ancestor Tai Yi, Lin Ling did not care about it. If he really wanted to clear his master's name, he would do it on a more glorious occasion. That would be the time when Lin Ling would leave Tai Yi Nebula sect. He forfeited just like that. What a disappointment. Coward. Sigh, this is normal. After seeing Zhua Yunfei's strength, the others would not dare to fight for first place. It seems like the rankings have been decided. Everyone was discussing among themselves. Although some looked down on Lin Ling, they felt that everything was normal. Zhua Yunfei and the others felt that everything was normal. Lin Ling was indeed smart. If he really dared to fight, he would definitely leave in disgrace. Even Zilong had the same thought. If there was an exception, it would be Yi Lingtian and Yu Rou. They felt that Lin Ling was not just that. An exciting nebula competition had finally come to an end. Of course, to Lin Ling and the others, this competition was a little boring. Therefore, after they had received their rewards, they left. The people glanced at Lin Ling and thought that Lin Ling and the other two felt embarrassed and did not dare to stay any longer, so they left. They did not care about this. Instead, they kept congratulating Zhua Yunfei and the other strong people. Zhua Yunfei was in high spirits. He knew that the Tai Patriarch was a strong person from the era of the deities. Being able to meet him today would definitely benefit him greatly. The Flame Emperor had also said that the Tai Patriarch was very close to one of the 9 states' 10 martial gods. Therefore, being able to curry favor with the Tai Patriarch would only bring benefits and no harm. Thinking of this, Zhua Yunfei smiled proudly. He looked around, trying to find the woman with the same bloodline. However, the woman had already walked into the distance. Most importantly, not far in front of her was Lin Ling and the others. What? This scene made Zhua Yunfei's pupils tremble violently. Yu Rou did not worship his light. Instead, she went to chase after Lin Ling and the other cowards. He suddenly felt as if his heart was being cut by a knife. The crowd's words of worship were like mocking laughter at this moment. It made him feel as if he was wearing a huge green hat. He got first place, but he lost that woman? How could this be? How could this be? He kept shaking his head, completely unable to understand. Chapter 32-46. The Increase in Fire Talent. Lin Ling, Di Shitian, Meng Lu, you have guts. Zhua Yunfei could not figure it out, so he could only place all his anger on Lin Ling and the others. At that moment, Lin Ling and the others were walking towards the western mountain. The girl chasing behind them made them frown. Senior Lin Ling. The one chasing after Lin Ling and the others was Yu Rou. Why are you following us? Lin Ling stopped in his tracks and looked at the beauty with a cold expression. Me. His appearance made Yu Rou a bit embarrassed and she did not know what to say. Lin Ling, what kind of attitude is this? She is a true disciple of Miao Shen and she is a girl. Treat her better. Me. Although martial uncle he was puzzled as to why Yu Rou was following them. He could not help but reprimand her. No, I was too rude. Me. Yu Rou quickly waved her hand, as if she was afraid that Lin Ling and the others would be angry. In reality, she also knew why Lin Ling was angry. She knew that Lin Ling was the son of the demon and he came here to avoid the limelight. Naturally, he did not want to be the focus of everyone. It was also because her senior sister, Ye Shui, was currently hiding somewhere in the 9 provinces to avoid the limelight. The reason why she looked for Lin Ling was because she heard from her senior sister that Lin Ling's spirit formation Dao was unfathomable and broke the rules. So, she wanted to ask for advice. After that she said her purpose. Of course, she did not mention the spirit formation Dao. She only said that she encountered some problems in martial arts and wanted to ask Lin Ling for advice. Lin Ling pondered for a bit and knew what Yu Rou was thinking. In addition, martial uncle he was here, so he could not refuse. Then come with us to the western mountain. However, we do not provide food. If you want to eat, solve it yourself. Me. After leaving those words, Lin Ling strode forward. Seeing this, martial uncle he helplessly patted his head. This guy was too arrogant. No matter what, Yu Rou was still a beauty and a powerful beauty. No problem, I am good at cooking. I can cook for you, Senior Lin Ling. Me. However, Yu Rou did not care. Instead, she was overjoyed and followed Lin Ling. This made martial uncle he was dumbfounded. Compared to the tranquil West Mountain, the Grand Change Nebula sect was extremely lively. Zhua Yunfei, Zilong, and Yi Lingtian, who were ranked in the top 3, were obviously the center of attention. Even some of the experts in the Saint stage praised them. They also got to meet the Grand Change Patriarch as they wished. This was a great yen. The Tai Grand Ancestor was considered an extremely ancient figure in the Yen state. If one could become his last disciple,
one would be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort on the path of martial arts. Unfortunately, the last disciple seemed simple, but after so many years, there were only a few people who could become the last disciple.
Is Fu Yu?
Although Wei Yunfei and the others did not become his last disciple, they were at least one step closer. Moreover, they had received guidance from the Tai Yi Patriarch.
What a pity for Lin Ling. He actually gave up. If he continued to fight, he might have been able to enter the top 3.
While people were envious, they also thought of Lin Ling. Some people were gloating, while others felt pity. The West Mountain was as tranquil as ever, as if it was a mountain peak that reached the heavens. Even the wind was incomparably clean, especially at night, when the stars twinkled. It was as if one could touch an ancient myth. Yuru stayed here and was responsible for the food and shelter of Lin Ling and the others.
This surprised Master He.
He never thought that such a famous woman would have such a gentle personality. She was the type of wife and mother.
Even Xiao Yu was very close to Yu Rou. Most importantly, Yu Rou's cooking skills were very good. She was able to move Xiao Yu with her cooking skills.
As for Lin Ling and the others, although they were sages, it did not matter if they did not eat or drink. However, delicious food was sometimes a pleasure, so they would not refuse. Tisk, second brother, this girl is not bad.
Sakura quietly looked at the busy Yu Rou and said with a smile, "What? You like her?"
Lin Ling turned his head and looked at him strangely. Sakura hurriedly waved his hand and said, "I don't want to touch these love affairs now. I still want to improve my strength."
"What about you, Meng Lu?"
Lin Ling looked at the white-haired youth beside him. The latter shrugged his shoulders and said, "I also live by martial arts. I have no plans for the relationship between men and women for the time being."
"You two are really blockheads."
Lin Ling rolled his eyes at each of them. Lin Ling's son was not young anymore, but these two guys were not married yet.
It really made people anxious.
One had to know that if Sakura and the others were in Lin Ling's previous world, it was possible for them to be grandfathers now. However, the two worlds were different. With the age of Sakura and the others, if they were in the previous world, they would only be 25 or 26 years old. After all, this world lived by martial arts and surpassed the limits of the human body. As the lifespan continued to increase, people aged slowly.
"Big brother Lin Ling, it's done."
At this moment, a soft voice came from outside the house. Moreover, bursts of meat fragrance also drifted over, which made Lin Ling and the others walk out. That night, under the quiet night, the few of them chatted and laughed wittily. Although Yu Rou had a gentle temperament, when she spoke to Lin Ling, there was more or less a trace of reverence. Mainly, she knew that Lin Ling was the famous son of the devil in the 9 states. Lin Ling's attitude towards her was also neither cold nor indifferent. After all, there was no friendship between them. If it was Yeshua, it would be more appropriate. They could talk more. After dinner, the group chatted for a while more before they entered into cultivation. On the path of martial arts, if you don't advance, you will fall behind. This was a principle that everyone knew. Lin Ling also sat cross-legged in the house to cultivate. A diamond-shaped crystal block appeared in his hand. This crystal block was extremely mysterious. Its surface had a fiery red brilliance flowing around it, as if it was drifting in the air like fog. The fire element level crystal. Until now, Lin Ling still did not know how this treasure was formed. However, he knew that it could be used to raise the level of the fire element. Of course, Lin Ling's fire element level was currently 0. Only his demon sword level had reached 60%. Therefore, he did not plan to create another fire element level crystal. Instead, he planned to use it to raise his innate talent and raise his cultivation level. He silently chanted the Chaos Divine formula in his heart. The crystal in his hand quietly dispersed. Clouds drifted and enveloped Lin Ling's entire body. At the same time, the space-time divine steel turned into a mini-version and floated above Lin Ling's head, rolling and rotating. That ancient aura also quietly emanated out. It was extremely surging. When the fire element level crystal's power enveloped the space-time divine steel, it was as if a god had taken action, unlocking layers of seals. Time quietly passed just like that. When Lin Ling opened his eyes, ancient runes appeared in his pupils. The space-time divine steel silently merged into his head. This made him realize that the space-time divine steel's innate talent had reached the level of a 7th-grade desolate body. This improvement was not small.
Chapter 3247. A big operation.
But now he had come to the Yen state. This was the oldest divine prefecture in the land of the 9 prefectures. There were traces left behind by gods everywhere. A 7th-grade desolate body was not enough to dominate. However, it was enough to greatly increase Lin Ling's strength. Currently, his 3 Dantians had all reached the 7th grade of desolate body. Only his lightning-type Dantian was still ordinary. It could only provide dense realm essence. His realm has also broken through? After that, Lin Ling checked his Dantian and discovered that his fire attribute Dantian had entered the 8th stage of the half-saint realm. But because of the limited resources, the other 3 Dantians were still in the 7th stage realm range. If I attain the mastery of the half-saint realm, then I'll be able to open my 5th Dantian. Although the other Dantians didn't improve, it still made Lin Ling happy. Then, Lin Ling pushed open the door and walked out. Outside the house, Xiaoyu was talking to Little White Rabbit and Little Deer.
Do you guys want sweets? Why don't you eat sweets? It's delicious. Unfortunately, Bunny and Xiaolu did not give Xiaoyu any face.
They shook their heads, causing Xiaoyu to pout, her face filled with displeasure. Xiaoyu's cute appearance had undoubtedly amused Lin Ling. Xiaoyu, Little White Rabbit eats carrots. Lin Ling couldn't help but laugh. Brother! Xiaoyu immediately rushed over and hugged Lin Ling's thigh with her 2 little hands. She almost climbed up his thigh and onto Lin Ling's shoulder. Lin Ling shook his head helplessly. He picked up the little girl and placed her on his shoulder. He looked over and saw a woman busily preparing lunch for everyone. It had to be said that her gentle patience had completely moved Lin Ling.
Iyuru.
Lin Ling made a sound. Big brother Lin Ling. Iyuru immediately turned her head and looked at him with some doubts. If you encounter any difficulties in the path of world spirit techniques, as long as I am able to help you, I will do my best to help you.
Really?
The spoon in Iyuru's hand subconsciously fell to the ground. Her face was full of surprise. Although the Great Change Nebula sect did not lack some powerful boundary masters, in the face of Miao Shen's true inheritance, the boundary masters were simply not enough. Therefore, in the Great Change Nebula sect, the only person she could humbly seek advice from was Lin Ling.
Of course it's true.
Seeing Iyuru's excited look, Lin Ling smiled and nodded. Inside the house, Sakura and Meng Lu both smiled at the same time. Lin Ling, this fellow, had finally begun to give pointers to others? In the following days, Lin Ling was extremely free. When he was free, he would visit Yu and the others. Occasionally, he would cultivate and give Yuru some pointers. Of course, Lin Ling was also secretly paying attention to the Heavenly Court. However, he discovered that the Heavenly Court hadn't stopped searching for them. Moreover, he received news that a few more people from the God-slaying alliance had been captured. The news of Yuru living in the West Mountain had undoubtedly spread to many people in the Great Change Nebula sect, especially Zhou Yunfei. He was undoubtedly furious. Until now, he still couldn't understand why Lin Ling and the other 2 had the right to do so. As for the people of the Great Change Nebula sect, the way they looked at Zhou Yunfei had quietly changed. A huge green hat was shining brightly on Zhou Yunfei's head. This made Zhou Yunfei finally realize that Lin Ling and the other 2 had already given him a huge threat. On this day, Martial Uncle He arrived and brought a piece of news. All the major sects in the Yen province have gathered to prepare for a crusade against the great demon sect of the 9 prefectures' 10 evils. Therefore, before the operation, all the sects in the vicinity have to gather. The Great Change Nebula sect has said that all the half-saints will be mobilized.
Great demon sect?
Hearing this, Lin Ling and the others' faces changed. Lin Ling really didn't know much about the great demon sect of the 9 prefectures' 10 evils. He couldn't help but look at Meng Lu. Meng Lu's face was somewhat solemn as he quietly sent a voice transmission. The great demon sect is said to be a demon from the era of the gods. They once fought against the gods. They are cruel and ruthless. They once stirred up a terrible vortex in the myriad worlds and destroyed tens of thousands of worlds. Like the Creation Alliance, their destructive power is extremely strong. They are also known as the vermin of the 9 prefectures. Hearing this, Lin Ling nodded and looked at Martial Uncle He. I don't know the specifics of the operation. Master just asked everyone to gather. Martial Uncle He said immediately. Martial Uncle He,
Do you know if the other 9 prefectures' 10 evils will appear?
For example, the Immortal Temple. Lin Ling asked urgently.
I don't know about this. Perhaps we will only know after the operation begins. Martial Uncle He shook his head. The operation this time was very big. All the famous forces in the 9 prefectures were mobilized. The same was true for the major sects in the Yan province. It was said that the Wangu clan and the Flaming Emperor were also mobilized. This also let him know that this operation was a big one that would shock the entire 9 prefectures. Of course, as an outer elder of the Great Change Nebula sect, the success or failure of such a big operation had nothing to do with him. He was only interested in participating. Okay, then let's participate.
Lin Ling, Sakura, and the rest looked at each other and nodded. Although the participation this time was a little dangerous and it was inevitable that they would encounter people from the Heavenly Court, fortunately, there were many people participating.
The Heavenly Court might not be able to detect them. Most importantly, Lin Ling did not want to miss any news about the Immortal Temple. Then let's go to a Yuan villa to gather.
Master and the others have already gathered on the other side.
Following Martial Uncle He, Lin Ling and the others left. When they arrived at the Great Change Nebula sect, they found that a large number of people had gathered there. They were led by seniors in the Sage Realm and the others were young people in the Sage-to-be Sage Realm. When Lin Ling and the others appeared, many people looked at them. This was because after the competition, Lin Ling and the other 2 went into seclusion again. They did not show any pride or complacency. This kind of behavior was extremely puzzling. Are they also qualified to participate?
At this moment, an arrogant voice quietly floated out.
The person who spoke was Zhua Yunfei. At this moment, he was looking at Lin Ling and the other 2 with disdain.
There was a trace of anger in the depths of his eyes. People immediately sensed the smell of gunpowder.
However, today's order was issued by the sect. Zhua Yunfei treated himself as an elder and openly questioned Lin Ling and the other 2. This would probably cause dissatisfaction among the sect's elders. They immediately looked around. Unfortunately, although the seniors here were strong, they did not have much authority. Even Martial Uncle He did not seem to have the right to speak. After all, Zhua Yunfei had met their master. In the future it was hard to predict. It was possible that he would be a closed-door disciple. However, Martial Uncle He still said, Zhua Yun's sect, this is the Great Change Nebula sect's decision. You can't make the decision.
Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because our master and the other elders are one step ahead.
I can't do whatever I want, but at least I have more authority than you. Sure enough, Zhua Yunfei was not afraid of Martial Uncle He at all. Zhua Yunfei, why are they not qualified to participate? They are the top 10 in the Sage-to-be realm. What right do you have to talk about them? At this moment, a crisp voice was heard. It was a soft voice. Apparently, she knew that Zhua Yunfei was targeting Lin Ling and the other 2 because of her. These 3 guys don't even dare to challenge me. They have no courage. Such people are just dazzling for a while. Sooner or later, they will be surpassed by the other junior brothers. If they participate in the action, they will only embarrass the Great Change Nebula sect. However, who knew that Zhua Yunfei would immediately shout angrily after Yuru spoke?